Straight Talk Society. This is your host, Trevor, and I'm back with another episode of Straight Talk with Trevor.
Because the ladies from Pour Your Heart Out
no topic
will be over
is
here
off
to
limits.
join the panel.
Plus, but it's a must, you gon' respect this. Plus, your nuts will touch the dust, you try to check this. You ain't
The MMA brothers, Bones and Zay, have pre and post shows to the MMA shows, and I am your host, Mr. Straight Talk, the man with the greatest beard on YouTube.
I'm gonna tell you something. Facial hair is not apostolic. However you want to cut it, it's compromise. I don't care if your leader says you can wear a beard, honey. Beard's nothing more than pride. You're not going to be dipped in Holy Ghost oil and run around looking like the world.
Oh, I love throwing that in there. Real quick, I am back on Facebook. I guess they took me out of jail. I was able to connect the channel back. Those of you on Facebook, make sure and hit that like, share, and subscribe button.
And also on Mondays, 6 o'clock, tune in to the same channel for Man Talk Monday. Trust me, you ain't got nothing better to do. Even if you think you do and you tune into that show, you're going to realize, oh, man,
okay,
I've been missing this.
Yeah. Because this is why you need me.
Once you listen to that, drop a like. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel because you're hard-headed, go ahead and subscribe to it
They
now.
are goofy.
And when you listen to that, if you haven't subscribed, you're going to want to subscribe. And then you're going to want to go back through the archives. And you're going to want to catch up on all your Man Talk Mondays. And then you might be able to find a few Bible debates in there.
That's what I'm going to say. TFP politics is on Tuesday.
Vancat, Mike, MD, and Ricardo do such a fantastic job with that. That's every Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
My position is impregnable. You can't do it.
If that doesn't fancy your boat,
Wrestling with Reality on Wednesday.
Oh yeah, acknowledge.
we have the return of Straight Talk Therapy sessions with the one and only Dr. Mia. So y'all be sure and tune into that.
And then you got the Bible debates on Thursdays.
So yeah, man, lock in with the Straight Talk Society, man, because you won't regret it, and we appreciate it. Also, milk coming out too. Look out for the merch. And if y'all can be so kind as to subscribe to the channel, it's only $1.99 a month. With all this premium content that we pushing out, it's definitely worth it. It just helps provide the channel with a resource to give y'all even better content, as if it can get better, right? But just go ahead and show us some love. We would be greatly appreciative.
The Straight Talk Society. We will not go over that 2.5 hour mark. So, Mike, you ain't got no shirt on, right?
I never have clothes on, bro.
But I'm saying you like right on the like crazy.
My bad. I don't like clothes, bro. Anybody that knows me, my fault.
Crazy.
Do you really believe that garbage?
It's not about believing, it's a matter of fact.
So you believe.
Well, nobody else could make a decision but me because I was the president, and the final decision comes to the president.
It's easy enough for a Monday morning quarterback to say what the coach should have done after the game's over. But when the decision is up before you, and on my desk I have a motto which says the buck stops here, the decision has to be made.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
And I want to say this to the television audience. I made my mistakes, but in all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I could say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
President?
Yep.
Mr. President, I want to raise an issue that I think you've been lurking out there for 2 or 3 weeks and casting specifically in national security terms. You already are the oldest president in history, and some of your staff say you were tired after your most recent encounter with Mr. Mondale. I recall yet that President Kennedy had to go for days on end with very little sleep during the Cuba Missile Crisis. Is there any doubt in your mind that you would be able to function in such circumstances?
Not at all, Mr. Truitt, and I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
And I'm the one who will not raise taxes. My opponent now says he'll raise them as a last resort or a third resort. But when a politician talks like that, you know that's one resort he'll be checking into. And my opponent won't rule out raising taxes, but I will, and the Congress will push me to raise taxes, and I'll say no. And they'll push, and I'll say no. And they'll push again, and I'll say to them, read my lips. No new taxes.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
You're full of shit.
All right, thank you.
No, shush. Shush.
For 3 years, we heard it every day, that Joe Biden and Donald Trump were the oldest candidates ever. Republicans made the excuse that Biden was 3 years older, and the media gave it a pass. Their breathless coverage of Biden's age, while ignoring Trump's decline, pretended Trump wasn't slurring his speech.
We want a landslide that's
confusing people,
including Obama. I'll tell you what.
Telling weird, wandering stories.
By the way, a lot of shark attacks lately. The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man.
Now, there's no excuse. There's only one person in this race now with mental problems. One person with memory problems. One person feeling the icy hand of death from old age creeping closer. One person who knows the clock is running out. And that's old Donald Trump. Weak, impotent, forgetful, mentally declining, fast. He'd be 83 by the end of his term. If he's senile now, he'll be dangerous by then.
In any country, prison is where society sends its failures. But in this country, society itself is failing.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. We won the evangelicals. We won with young. We won with old. We won with highly educated. We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
You crazy.
Grab him by the pussy.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Stay shut your mouth, because you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I did.
Hold it, tough guy. I'm not afraid of physical.
Hold it. Don't sit there and tell me I'm not.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, Shame on you. You fooled me, we can't get fooled again.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Stand back and stand by with your shut up, man.
Last thing was Olivia Gondak. It says that I wanted to eat her pussy. Olivia Gondak. I've never said that in my life tour. I would never do that. I'm happily married. I've got more than enough to eat at home. Thank you very much.
You got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Okay. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words. We now have a gun on every table. We're ready to start shooting.
By the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
Sarcastic.
That was...
Even though they're trying to impeach the son of a bitch. Can you believe that? You believe that? That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
If I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one other.
I don't want reality. I'm asking the question: which one is better? That's exactly what it is.
Got it on tape.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality. I don't like euphemisms or euphemistic language. And American English is loaded with euphemisms because Americans have a lot of trouble dealing with reality. Americans have trouble facing the truth. So they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation. For some reason, it just keeps getting worse.
How stupid are these politicians to allow this to happen?
If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution, every poll?
No, sit down. Sit down. Look at you.
You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts. Alternative facts. Alternative facts. Alternative facts.
Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your...
I ain't talking politics. I'm talking life.
I ain't talking politics. I'm talking life.
All right, here we go again. It is Tuesday, another TFP Tuesday, Tape Fifth Politics. I'm Venkat, and of course I'm joined with the world's most dangerous political panel. On the panel today, we've got Ricardo. What's going on, Ricardo? Making butts real again?
Absolutely. Making butts real again. It's all we need to ensure for electoral win 24. Wait, we said 2014, 2024. Just to show you how far back we're going. But yeah,
yeah. Okay, Ricardo. And then also on the panel, We got MD20, the political prophet amongst men. What's going on, MD?
Peace, what's going on? What's happening?
Trying to survive, MD, in this Trump world.
Hey, ain't we all, man? Ain't we all?
All right. So today on the docket, we got Donald Trump blurting out and saying what he really thinking. He claimed that he don't know about Project 2025, distanced himself from everybody, even though everybody's his friend that cultivated it. So he had a little, well, not a rally, but a speech that he made over the weekend on Friday. And he let a few things loose. I don't know if that was a strategy or not, maybe because he hasn't been in the headlines. He hasn't been able to own the headlines. So maybe Donald Trump decided he needed to spark some controversy. Whatever it may be, it's still very troubling words. So we're going to look into a little bit of that speech that he had on Friday, what he had to say. We also want to take a look at Christopher Dunn, a inmate that's been in prison for over 30 years on a crime he did not commit. So, and that is courtesy of Mr. Mike suggesting that one for the show today, and so I can't wait to get into that. Also, Joe Biden went ahead and said we need to look at the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is a bit suspect. So Uncle Joe is introducing term limits, among other things. So we'll take a look at that, plus much, much more. So for the show right now, let's go ahead and start with DJT, Donald Trump, and let's see what he's talking about these days.
One of your most important things you can do, maybe in many ways your most important, they don't want to approve voter ID. That's because they want to cheat. But until then, Republicans must win. We have to win this election, most important election ever. We want a landslide that's too big to rig. If you want to save America, get your friends, get your family, get everyone you know, and vote. Vote early, vote absentee, vote on election day. I don't care how, but you have to get out and vote. And again, Christians, get out and vote. Just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm not Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
You probably heard this weekend that Donald Trump told an audience on Friday night that if they vote for him this November, if he's voted back into office this November, they will never have to vote again. He told an audience on Friday to, quote, get out and vote just this time. He said after this time, quote, you won't have to do it anymore. You won't have to vote anymore. He said, quote, in 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good, and you're not going to have to vote. Now, this is not the first time Trump has told a campaign audience that they will never have to vote again once they vote him back in this time. And that is as alarming as it sounds for all the reasons that you immediately think it is, right? I mean, he's positing this like this is a happy thing. Oh, joy, never having the burden of voting again, right? The point of democracy is that we vote all the time, and we like it. That's how we decide what happens in our country. He's promising his followers that he'll end all of that. And it's exactly what you think it is. But let me also point out something more strange, which has been happening at the same time and hasn't had as much attention. The day before Trump made those remarks on Friday he said, you're never going to have to vote again after you vote for me this one time. The day before that, on Thursday last week, he didn't say that people wouldn't have to vote anymore once he was elected this November. No, the day before that, on Thursday, he told his supporters, not that they're not going to have to vote again, but that they don't have to vote this time, that they don't need to vote for him this November.
My instruction, we don't need the votes. I have so many votes.
My instruction, we don't need the votes. I have so many votes. He said that on Thursday last week. And it turns out this is something, when you look, he says this all the time now. Watch.
My instruction, we don't need the votes. I have so many votes.
We don't need votes. I tell my people, I don't need any votes. We got all the votes we need. I don't need votes. We don't need votes. We got more votes than anybody's ever had. You don't have to vote. Don't worry about voting. The voting, we got plenty of votes.
Don't worry about voting. Of all the weirdness around this campaign, this is a truly strange thing to tell people, right? Don't vote. I don't need your vote. I don't want your vote. I mean, all the surface level weirdness is, worth noting. Having a new position on literally anything you can think of as soon as any random rich guy tells you to, that's a weird thing. Picking the eccentric billionaire's intern for your running mate, even though you apparently had no idea who he was or what a disaster he is on television, all of this is weird. But telling voters, do not bother to vote for me. It doesn't matter if you do. I don't need your votes. That is a thing that should prick up your ears. Because what that means is that he doesn't think he needs to win the vote to win the election. He doesn't think he needs to win the election in order to take power. He thinks something other than votes is going to determine whether or not he gets back in the White House. At Rolling Stone today, they profile 70 different election officials who have been put into position in the swing states of Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, who are election denialists, committed election denialists, officials that have been put in place in all of those swing states to make sure that election results, no matter what they are, do not get certified in those states this year. Quote, at least 22 of these election officials have already refused or delayed certification processes in recent elections. According to Democratic election lawyer Mark Elias, quote, I think we are going to see mass refusals to certify the election in November. Quote, Republicans are counting on not just that they can disrupt the election in big counties, they're counting on the fact that if they don't certify in several small counties, you can't certify statewide results. 70 officials in place across just the swing states. For all the surface level weird behavior and language and strange choices and incoherence and odd donors in the Republican campaign, the serious core at the heart of it is that they are not planning on the vote being counted as normal. They are not counting on the election results being tallied as normal. They are not counting on the vote. And in fact, Trump is now repeatedly saying the vote will not matter. He doesn't even want your vote. The Republicans are counting on the election results not being certified, thereby creating chaos in Washington around the results. Just like 2020, right? Just like January 6, 2021, except this time with no Mike Pence in the way and with Republican officials already in place in multiple states saying, yeah, you may not get any sort of official vote. The weirdness of this campaign is astonishing 99 days out. The dislocation from real campaigning, though, the dislocation from actually asking people for their votes, that means something. It means they are not trying to win this thing in a normal way. So 99 days out, as Democrats stand up what, by all accounts, looks like a juggernaut traditional campaign under Kamala Harris, are they prepared for this level of weirdness after the votes are cast?
All right, there we go. Donald Trump in West Palm Beach this past Friday. Ricardo, what did you make of what Donald Trump said? What do you feel is going on here?
Well, ladies and gentlemen out there, welcome to TFP Politics. I don't know what to make of this whole diatribe from him, but I do know he is old. So, since he wanted to throw bones out there, we're going to throw bones back right at him. He is very old, getting around that time period of when you basically just spew your nonsense as you get old. No, I shouldn't do that because I did argue about ageism, but it's so hard not to go low when he goes low. So I won't do that. What I will say is that I feel like he says things and then not remember them now is what I would like to touch on. I feel like it was very weird, this whole conversation that he had regarding telling Christians to go vote because, they won't have to do it again. Sir, again, I imply and I implore and I do all of this to state, people out there, you have a civic duty to vote. It doesn't matter what this moron says, you vote for every election. That's what this country was, based on in terms of the Constitution is the free will to vote. So I don't know what he's implying or what he's trying to implore or whatever the word is at this stage. Nothing that he says during the whole thing made sense to me, but I can only state this. It's the wishy-washiness, the flip-floppiness. It's the nonsense of him trying so desperately to get people to, I guess, vote for him to get back into the White House, which again, there's many things that could happen between now and going into November. I just don't see it happening for him. And I said this the last time when, everybody, when the Democrats, lest we forget, when they literally went knocking on Joe's doorsteps. Please come back, Joe. We need you. Without you, we can't do this. We can't go through another term with Donald Trump. And Joe said, I don't want to do it. And they were like, no, it's detrimental at this point. And Joe ran and ran with Kamala and won. So with this time around, he kept implying Sleepy Joe is somewhere in the basement, all of that. And Joe said, all right, you want to throw stones? We're going to throw stones. So I'm going to slowly back out and I'm going to leave. Joe left, and all of a sudden now it's like we're pivoting. We don't know, and what I mean I'm talking MAGA group. Don't know what to do at this point because now you threw a woman into the election, which she was always there. It's just that she was in the background because for whatever the reason, Joe's campaign people thought, hey, let's just put her over there and she will be busy. So now what the backpedaling thing that they're doing was, maybe she won't be important. No, then Trump crew went into the whole, hey, let's hit him where it hurts, because at some point, he's gonna always be in the race. Joe then does the pull the rug underneath her feet thing, and we were like, oh, crap. No, he's no longer in the race. And then now we push Kamala to the forefront. It's as if they never saw it coming, but at all times in politics, you should be prepared. So now it seems to me that, MAGA group is now literally in limbo and is going through meltdown, like a nuclear meltdown. They don't have a clue what to do. The VP pick was a disastrous pick because even I said this, a couple weeks ago, I find him boring. I find the VP pick just hella boring. There's nothing that resonates with me with him. I just don't see it. So now if we're counting well, I think this is week 3 or 4 that we've not been talking that much about Donald Trump. As you know, the narcissist in him cannot handle that. He does not like being skimmed over. He does not like being ignored. He does not like being praised. It's just it's an innate ability in him not to be still when people are not speaking about him 100%. In all the news cycles that I've watched, including Fox News, which I hate watching most of the time, but I have to do my political due diligence. They've been talking about Kamala over and over and over again. It's just Kamala, this, Kamala that. And it's like, oh, really now Donald Trump it's like his skin is boiling red because he's like, no one's talking about me. What about me? It's like, was it the Brady Bunch show where they're like, she keeps saying Marsha. That's how he feels. So literally he has to come out of the woodwork because VP ain't doing his job. And when VP does speak, he's talking about cats and ladies and a whole bunch of nonsense that makes no sense. So now he's labeled weird and that's catching on. So it's like one of those things where I feel like Donald Trump needs to find something to grasp straws at. And the only way he could get people's attention is to say something way out there and outlandish. And one of them was the votes. I don't know if it worked that well, but what it did do was make people start donating more to Kamala's campaign. I'm gonna say this before I shut up and let MD talk. When you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, and this is one of my favorite moments of why that catchphrase is so important. You played stupid games, you won a stupid prize. Now and again, anything can happen between now and November the 14th, because we're now 98 days out before the general election. Donald Trump, you only have yourself to blame for this. You have MAGA group to blame for this. Y'all in meltdown. You have no idea, no clue how to pivot from this. But I will say this, and I will say this like I said this last week. You cannot go for the racist rhetoric. You cannot go for the misogynistic rhetoric. You can't go for the whatever it is that you think you're trying to pivot towards. It will not work. You tried DEI last week. It backfired really significantly on y'all. Do not do that. If you're going to talk stuff, talk about the politics, talk about your policies, talk about what it is that you feel your voters need to be hearing, but don't go for the same usual bullcrap that we're known for y'all to be doing. It will not work, because what you're going to do is drive the voters towards Kamala. And that's exactly what you're doing right now, because people are like, well, one, now he's the oldest candidate in the race, and two, his same nonsense that he's been spewing throughout the whole election run from the last time is what he's doing now. There's nothing different, sir. You're literally very boring and benign. I need you to do something that will make me go, all right. He talked about NATO last time, which I agree with him on, and he talked about a whole bunch of stuff. Now it's like, I don't even know where you stand, Donald Trump. What is it that you're doing? Because you're backpedaling and you're trying to grasp at straws. You're doing a whole bunch of stuff. That's not going to work. Speak about your policies. If it even means about talk about drill. Give me something that's a little bit different. It's the same nonsense, the same bull crap, and you're not doing anything that's making me go, let me give Donald Trump notice. It's not going to work, sir. You're beginning to look old. You're beginning to look very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, passed around, has been. It's giving me that vibe. You're not giving me anything that's uniquely different. And for that, sir, you're just a regular, sleepy, boring, old, skeezing, 32 count convicted moron. And I'll leave it at that. Take it away, MD.
All right, MD, what do you say? What did you think about Donald Trump's speech this weekend?
Yeah, man. So there's not really anything to break down or deconstruct or analyze in this particular. The man said what he said. Hey, it is what it is. At what point are we gonna stop trying to get into the mind of Trump in regards to his quote unquote sarcasm or overt, I guess you would say weirdness, because that's the word that has been adopted for the Republicans, the weirdness of the things that he say. The man clearly said that just vote for me this time, you ain't got to vote no more after this. Now you could take that one or two ways. You could take that as either he just not gonna leave the resolute this, or the platform, which is MAGA, is forever gonna be etched within government. Either way you slice it, it's authoritarianism. Either way. So it's nothing to really break down in this particular situation. The man is what he is. Now let's go to Project 2025. He was speaking at a Turning Point USA event. Now I got a theory. Do I want to go and give it away? Yeah, let me go and say it now. I got a theory.
Mm-hmm.
My theory is that when it comes to this Christian nationalist ideology, it's coming from a specific place. What do I mean? Meaning that if you connect the dots, follow the money trail, see what the ideologies of other people are, this is the Catholic ideology. I'm going to make a lot of people mad. If you're Catholic, I apologize. In terms of who's backing what, if you look at the Federalist Society, claim to be Catholic, backed into the people that now control Project 2025. Oh, by the way, Peter Dans, the director of Project 2025, just resigned today from Trump pressure, and I don't see nobody talking about it.
Oh, we talking about it. We shall.
I don't see nobody. So I thought Trump ain't had nothing to do with Project 2025.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
But it's so blatantly authoritarian. The man who essentially was ahead of Project 2025 had to step down because of pressure on the Trump campaign. But hey, don't get it twisted. You'll see him again.
Yes, you will.
Just in another capacity. Hell, if I had to guess, he might go directly to the Trump campaign.
Yes, he
So
shall.
don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted at all. So back to the Turning Point USA speech. Of course, Charlie Kirk, who has was put into a position where he created Turning Point Faith based off Liberty University, who he was with before, strong ties. Created Turning Point Faith. That's the event that Trump spoke at. Then you turn around, you got other people that's involved Project 2025. Kevin Roberts, Catholic. Peter Dance, Catholic, and who have said things in the past about merging Catholic traditions with what we would consider now the WASP or white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, merging it as a coalition to basically have a stronghold in conservatism. Good luck with that. If you go back in time, if you go back into the Federalist Society when it was first established, again, same principles. So that that's my tinfoil hat for the day. I ain't gonna put it back on. Going back to Trump.
So 1 second, MD. It looked like we got a MAGA maniac in the chat, Melissa, saying Project 2025 is not Trump.
I don't see that.
I mean, he personally knew and associated with a lot of those people that wrote the Project 2025.
Let me give you a name. Russell Vought. Russell
one.
Vought is one of the top contributors of Project 2025. Who is Russell Vought? Russell Vought is the policy director of the Republican National Committee. What are we talking about? If you're going to make an argument that Project 2025 is not Trump, neither is Agenda 47, because guess what? Trump said last couple of weeks ago at the RNC convention that the RNC platform was the official platform of his campaign and the Republican Party. That's what he said, not me.
That is
so.
True.
If I'm gonna put 2 and 2 together, let's just use logic. I love logic. It's my favorite thing. If we're gonna use logic, and if Trump said that the RNC, I think it was 20 bullet points that are not even really policy. Everybody go look up what the RNC platform is and tell me if you can figure out what any policy is. Besides that, if Trump said that the RNC platform is the platform that they adopted, and Russell Vought, one of the heads of Project 2025, is the head policy director of the RNC, what does that make Project 2025? I'm just asking for a friend.
A preamble for Trump's campaign run.
And these MAGA maniacs can't even tell me what the platform of Trump is, because they don't know. They just reactionary in defense of people talking about Project 25. It's not going to work. It's just not.
And that's why I keep saying it's Project 2025 is basically their Achilles heel. Whether or not they want to admit it or not, it's pretty much like them when the Democrats did the whole what was it that we were complaining about with the police thing, defund the police. It's the same thing. They literally put their foot in their mouth, and now it's like, oh, we're backpedaling. It's not gonna work. Like at this point in time, what is the agenda? Because I've yet to specifically hear somebody say this is what it was and what it. All you see is Trump backing away slowly but surely. Hey, I have nothing to do with this. So he's pivoting as well because he realized the damage that it's causing to his campaign. Whether or not,
hey, real quick.
Go ahead, MD.
Maria G. I never said that Turning Point USA was connected to the Catholic Church. I didn't say that. As a matter of fact, Turning Point USA is a different entity from Turning Point Faith, which they had at the Trump rally. 2 different entities, ran by the same person, Charlie Kirk. It's 2 different entities. So I never made the argument that the Catholic Church was directly tied to Turning Point USA. I'm just connecting dots. Like I said, I took my tinfoil hat off. I refuse to put it back on. I was just throwing it out there. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead, Ricardo.
Yeah, so that's that. I mean, and can you like for a quick second, MD, for those who don't know what that is that you were just explaining, what is Turning Point?
The Turning Point brand is the think tank created by Charlie Kirk, the right wing social media pundit. He has several branches of Turning Point. You got Turning Point USA, which is like the main thing that he runs. You got Turning Point Action, which is like a outreach program to reach out to essentially to the other side of the aisle. It's almost as if it's like a bipartisan outreach to go to, spew right wing rhetoric, but it's a bipartisan. Then you got Turning Point Faith. Turning Point Faith is strictly Christian. It's a Christian association. All three are ran by Charlie Kirk. So, Turning Point in itself is an umbrella company or umbrella advocacy group for the Republican Party, so to speak. So, just to, for context.
Got you. No, because, there's a lot of people that follow us on other mediums. So I would just want to make sure everybody gets clear of what we're discussing. Sometimes they're like, wait, what is he talking about? So I just wanted to make sure we understand what it was that MD referred to and what Mariji was stating. But yeah, I don't disagree with you one bit, MD. I feel like Project 2025, if they want to really do, and this is just me just saying this because I'm going to try to be neutral as possible as I can as an independent voter this time around, I'm going to give everybody a chance to explain their policies. And I've yet to hear, once you broke it down a little bit on your show, MD, when you did it, it was kind of like, okay. But I need them to explain to me. And if that's not the case and if this is the case where Trump is saying Project 2025 is not my campaign, I'll give him that. But it's so far from what we've seen, all the people that are connected to your campaign, Mr. Trump, is connected to the Project 2025, message that you're pushing. For one, I implore this, and I will say this to the MAGA people and all of them that's running your campaign. If it's has nothing to do with what you're trying to contribute for the elections going forward for November 14th, distance yourself. Fire all them peoples, get rid of them, and put in people that you think will be smart. If it's the same message that I think and MD and Vancat and the rest of us who are smart enough to know and see through your BS is what we think it is, sir, it's not gonna cut it. And I think once the Democrats get a hold, because they're gonna hang on to this and they're gonna run with it and they're gonna run away with it quite quickly. If you're smart, which we think we know, I'm not even going to say we think we know. We know you're smart. You just act dumb sometimes. Please, sir, do yourself some justice and explain your policies. Nothing that I've seen so far explains anything that you know what you're going to be doing for November. It's
Ricardo, he can't do it. He doesn't have the ability to explain the policy. I'll give you proof. In 27, was it 20? I think it was 2018. In 2018, that was when he was still on Twitter. He tweeted, he said, the Heritage Foundation, see, I need to be sending you this stuff, Van Cat, so you can pull it up. He said,
No, go ahead.
No, in 2018, Donald Trump, when he was president, he said the Heritage Foundation, now I ain't saying verbatim. He said the Heritage Foundation said that the policies of their at that time, they weren't calling it Project nothing, but they had policy. He said that the Heritage Foundation said that the policies that they want have been 70% implemented. That's what he said. So my question would be, what is the goal or what is the synchronization between these different think tanks and the administration of Donald Trump? If you can't tie two and two together, then you just talk. You're babbling is what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I do have a piece here on Donald Trump and Project 2025. Let's go to that. I think it coincides with a lot of what you guys are saying here. And then on the other end, we'll talk about it.
And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
Do you believe if Donald Trump were elected next year that he would try to stay in office beyond a second term? That he would never leave office?
There's no question.
You think he would try to stay in power forever?
Absolutely.
The stakes could not be higher. Trump says if he wins, you won't have to vote anymore. Tonight, we are laying out the dangers of Project 2025, the manifesto that would give him that authoritarian power, limit your rights, and force you and your family to change the way you live your life.
I don't know what the hell it is. It's Project 25. He's involved in Project. And then they read some of the things, and they are extreme. I mean, they're seriously extreme. But I don't know anything about it. I don't want to know anything about it.
Yeah, but that's not the complete picture. Here is Trump promoting the Heritage Foundation and their little project just 2 years ago.
Heritage does such an incredible job, and they're going to lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do and what your movement will do when the American people give us a colossal mandate to save America. And that's coming. That's coming.
Here's the other truth. Roughly 140 individuals who worked in Trump's administration are affiliated with Project 2025, including 6 former cabinet secretaries and 4 people who were nominated as ambassadors by Trump. The others were either key figures from his first transition, close Oval Office allies, or mid-level agency officials. There's Russell Vought, Trump's former Office of Management and Budget Director, who wrote Chapter 2 in the section titled Taking the Reins of Federal Government. In this chapter, he lays out how to consolidate power around a president's political vision. He explains how you can bypass Congress and only fund projects that ensure consistency with the president's agenda. He is rumored to be Trump's choice for chief of staff. And according to Politico, he and Trump speak once a month. Vought hopes his close relationship with Trump will elevate Christian nationalism as a focal point of a second Trump administration. Then there's Roger Severino, a former Trump administration DOJ official, who wrote Chapter 14 about the Department of Health and Human Services and how to restrict abortion access across the country. Severino is a dogmatic anti-abortion militant who strongly believes that an America that allows abortion cannot survive.
The federal government has an absolute role in this. There cannot be now 2 Americas. One America where unborn life is protected and another where unborn life is treated as the equivalent of medical waste. Yeah. Right. That is untenable. This has to be settled nationally. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Yeah. We can't have 2 classes of Americans.
In Project 2025, he advocates for using the regulatory powers of the Department of Health and Human Services, the Food and Drug Administration, and the Department of Justice and the National Institutes of Health to end access to mifepristone, prohibit stem cell research, and create, quote, pro-life task force in the White House. There's also Richard Hanania, who helped contribute to Project 2025. Now, he's not a recognizable name, but he's a popular conservative activist with fans like J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel, and Elon Musk, who just so happens to be a noted racist and sexist. The Huffington Post reported that Hanania used a fake pen name to write articles and social media posts that expressed support for eugenics and forced sterilization of, quote, low IQ people, whom he argued were most often black. And he dreamed about a white awakening, which is when whites en masse realize that they are superior to non-whites and that they'd be better off abandoning multiracial democracy for something resembling a whites-only ethno-state. While those guys are cooking up plans for how the government would work and who it would work for, John McEntee, Trump's former body man and former director of his presidential personnel office, is working with Project 2025 to build the enforcement army. He is currently a senior advisor at Project 2025 with the single task of creating a resume database of dedicated MAGA warriors to staff up every agency. Well, the ones that they don't shutter completely, like the Department of Education, on day one. Here's what McEntee wrote when he took the job. Quote, "The presidential personnel database will be of extraordinary value for the 47th president because we are doing a lot of the incoming administration's most important work ahead of time," unquote. Then there is Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, a self-described radicalized Republican who is a champion of Kevin Roberts and his plan to turn the Heritage Foundation into the de facto institutional home of Trumpism. Here you see Vance and Roberts together on a panel last year at an event hosted by the Intercollegiate Institute, which is a conservative organization for college students. This particular discussion was about regime change and the future of liberalism. Guess what else? Kevin Roberts has a book coming out in September, and J.D. Vance wrote the foreword to that book in which he praises Roberts' vision for America. He also wrote, "We are now all realizing that it's time to circle the wagons and load the muskets. In the fights that lay ahead, these ideas are an essential weapon." Vance's current political ideology lines up pretty succinctly with that of Project 2025, and his backing of Kevin Roberts, along with his frequent appearances on Tucker Carlson's talk show, might explain why he is on the Trump ticket. This clip from his Senate campaign run might also have helped too.
I think that what Trump should do, like if I was giving him one piece of advice, fire every single mid-level bureaucrat, every civil servant in the administrative state, replace them with our people. Yeah, I mean, I think we got to do the hard work of institution building. And again, I've got friends who are working on this very problem right now, such that if there is a Trump administration round 2 or a DeSantis or a Hawley administration, that we actually have the bureaucracy in place so that that person can govern effectively and not be constantly undercut.
Trump, Vance, future staffers, future administration officials, and all of his former employees support parts or all of Project 2025. Do we really think that they would not implement these ideas if given the chance? Up next, I will detail for you explicitly the things they intend to do, from redirecting how we see ourselves socially, how we build our society, how we get by, and most importantly, and the one I worry about the most, how they will completely end how government functions, leaving a less safe.
Okay, there it is. So, as you can see, the connection with Trump and the people that are behind Project 2025 is undeniable. So anyone really trying to deny that Trump is not a part of it is kind of crazy at this stage in the game. MD, what did you think here about what was said here about Project 2025 and what they're trying to undertake?
Well, first of all, let me say this. Joanne Reed gained a fan in me. Masterpiece. A masterpiece. Then it was so cold. It was so cold how she did it. Yep. She had the stack of the PDF just sitting right there, just for a visual. That's it. That was cold, man. That was cold. Joy Reid, she the truth. And this coming from me. I can't stand MSNBC. Joy Reid went to work.
You've said that a lot of times. I've heard you say that plenty of times.
She went to work, fella. And that's how you do it. Anybody else just talk, you babbling. If you don't do what Joanne Reid just did, you're babbling. That's just a fact. So again, she connected the dots masterfully. That's how you do it. I mentioned Russell Vought. Again, he was the former director of OMB, current director of the RNC. He's the policy director, hired by Lord Trump. That's just what it is. John McAtee. I did a video on John McAtee. John McAtee was Trump's favorite guy. Like they called him the deputy president at one point because he was essentially Trump's right-hand man as far as the young crew went. They had to fire him because he couldn't get a security clearance for something that he did when he was younger. He's going to come back to the administration if Trump's elected by decree of King Trump. Who give a damn if you can't pass? I want him in. That's what's going to happen. So they're giving you what's going on. What's her name? The campaign press secretary of that cat. Oh man, what's her name? Carolyn something.
I can't think of it.
Anyway, she's the current Trump campaign press secretary. She's involved in what they call the I think it's called something academy, where they basically like you could take these classes online on Project 2025 to get you ready for a job position. I did this on a previous show when I filled out the application. Everybody remember I filled out the application. That application was constructed by John McAtee. Like the dots have been connected. It's just up to you to just look at them. Don't sit up here and tell me that you can't.
Tequila said it's Caroline Leavitt.
Yeah, Caroline Leavitt. That's her name. Yeah. That's her name. She's the current press secretary for the campaign. She's involved in Project 2025.
Thanks, Tequila.
Like, what are we doing? She's the truth. That's what you call investigative journalism. Again, what are we doing here? I mean, this shouldn't even be like a thing. You know what I'm saying? Trying to disassociate Trump with Project 2025. Let me ask you a question. Let's say hypothetically Trump ain't involved in Project 2025. Who's gonna be in his administration? It's gonna be a whole bunch of people we don't know nothing about. You mean to tell me that's a thing that's possible? It's not. Every single person that got a finger on Trump somehow, some way, some another is either directly involved in Project 2025 or has mentioned it in a positive light. That's just a fact.
But MD, Donald Trump is completely denying everything.
I didn't know Manafort well. He wasn't with the campaign long. I don't know Papadopoulos. I don't know him. I saw him sitting in one picture at a table with me. That's the only thing I know about him. I never met this woman. I never saw this woman. I know nothing about QAnon.
I just told you.
I know very little. You told me, but what you tell me doesn't necessarily make it fact. I don't know him very well. I have not spoken to him much. This is not a man I know well. Seems like a nice guy, though.
What? I have no idea what this is. I have no idea what Project 2025 is or who's behind it. Posting this on social media, quote, I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them, end quote.
I don't know her.
Yes,
seemed like a nice person though.
Yeah.
That's what Trump said.
I just saw a picture of him on a table. That's the best one.
And this is the problem that I have with him in general is that he never met this person. He's never seen them. Just because you guys say it doesn't make it true. Sir, you're in pictures with people. You're there conversing with people. You're doing all sort of stuff and you don't know them. That makes no sense. Now, yes, I might give you a little bit of benefit of the doubt here and there, but come on, man. Like, these people are serenading you every now and then, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Nothing you say. And again, I don't know who is running this campaign or what. It's just like when he didn't know that that guy that's connected with the whole pedophilia nonsense. What's his name that hang himself, or they claim that he hang himself in prison during the time when.
Oh yeah.
What's his face that's connected
to Epstein.
It's like really, really Trump. At some point in time, you got to take accountability somewhere. And this is my issue with you, is that I can't trust you, to say the least. Nothing you say And even when people give you the opportunity to, like, you know, make it right or confess to, like, saying, all right, maybe I might have dined here or there, you know, just throw it out there. He's like, oh, you know, I have no idea. It's like I'm a deer in the head. Like, sir, just stop. Like, come on, man. We give you multiple opportunities. Just state the obvious facts. Hey, I might have. Even if he said, I don't recall, or I don't, that would be, you know what I mean? Like, we'll be able to give him a bone. It's like, oh my God, I've never seen this person. I don't know who this is. Sir, cut it out. That's my problem with him. Like, he has brain fog. He has, so maybe you are getting too old, or maybe it's senile presenting itself at your age at almost 72, if not 74, sir. Cut it out. It's annoying to me as someone who's trying to give you the benefit of the doubt when you keep saying, I don't know these people. There are multiple peoples that you know, and they're connected all one by one. It's like a domino effect. Once that person goes down, everybody else crumbles around you. So I don't know if it's just him not, you know, taking accountability, or he thinks we're that stupid enough to think, oh, maybe he just doesn't know them. No, sir, we know you know them. Come on.
Yeah, but it's not him though. See, I put it like this: him and Reagan. I kind of look at them from a personal aspect as being comparable. Again, Heritage Foundation inception was everything to do with the policies of Reagan.
Yep, it started with Reagan.
There is no Reagan without the Heritage Foundation. It's all, I look at Trump like this: the RNC and all the think tanks are like the McDonald's Corporation, and Trump is Ronald McDonald. That's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? He's
the clown face of the operation.
Right. He's malleable. That's why the Heritage Foundation and other think tanks are pressing to get their agenda across, because Trump is malleable. He like a thing of dough. They can mold and shape him into whatever they need him to be. And when they see a problem or a situation that's turned as favorability to their policy, they'll back away. It's not Trump backing away. It's actually the think tanks themselves backing away. That's why Paul Dance resigned today. He didn't have a choice, because Project 2025 is not popular, and the mainstream media and the Democrats are pouncing on it. They didn't think that was going to happen.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Especially now with Biden being gone, and Kamala, every speech she says Project 2025.
Yep.
Every speech. They like, oh snap. You know what I'm saying? That's the real problem. It's not Trump. Trump don't know what the hell going on. He just say stuff that they tell him to say.
Yeah, the wheels are falling off hard on this Project 2025.
Yeah, it's collapsing.
So I have another video here. This one goes through the policies and statistics about Project 2025. It's pretty interesting. Let's take a quick look here.
Project 2025, the 920-page policy manifesto by the conservative group, the Heritage Foundation, highlights a wish list of economic and financial plans under a potential Trump second term. While Trump hasn't said he doesn't know anything about Project 2025, he says he doesn't know anything about it. We did a segment recently with NBC's Vaughn Hilliard showing how connected to it he actually is, even if he denies it. Proposals include higher taxes on lower income Americans, increased student loan payments, and major cuts to Medicaid. Steve Ratner has made his way to the Southwest Wall with charts on those financial implications of Project 2025. And Steve, your first chart shows there would be higher taxes on the less well off. Tell us about it.
Sure, Mika. Look, taxes are obviously perhaps issue number one on the minds of many Americans, and Project 25 is very clear about what it wants to do. It essentially wants to restructure our tax system into only two tax brackets, 15% for those earning less than the Social Security maximum, which is, I think, about $166,000 a year, and 30% for those earning above. But that would radically change how much different Americans pay. It would actually increase the amount that people making less than $150,000, less than that cutoff, pay $1,000, $2,000, $2,500. They would pay more taxes, but people above the wealthy would pay dramatically less taxes. If you earn $400,000 a year, you would get a tax cut of about $14,000. So an extraordinary shift in the tax burden away from the wealthy and toward the less wealthy. This is an even more extreme version of what Trump did in his tax bill, the TCJA, Tax Cut and Jobs Act, back in 2017 or so. And you can see here the impact of that was similarly regressive in that people at the bottom got a much smaller percentage increase in their tax cut, and people at the top got a much larger tax cut. 85% of this tax bill went to people making more than $75,000 or to business. And so essentially what this proposal would do is take this and put it on steroids.
So, Steve, the Biden administration's attempts to actually lessen the student loan burden really enraged Republicans. In fact, whenever you would bring up January the 6th, it seems that a lot of Republicans go, yeah, well, look what Joe Biden did with student loans. And they were serious. Like, that's sad, but they were serious. This Project 2025 thing actually is going to increase the burden on people with student loans, right?
Yeah, so Joe Biden did make a bunch of proposals. Some of them got litigated and overturned, but then he found other ways, which I'm going to talk about in a second, to address the student loan burden. But what Project 2025 would do essentially would be to eliminate all of what the Biden administration did to cut the burden of student loans. And you can see here, this is broken down by education and all the way from some college but no degree to master's program. And so in terms of the monthly student loan payments, for the people at the bottom, their monthly average student payments would go from $78 to $308. So a huge increase for those with very little college, people who don't probably have great jobs and for whom this is a big burden. And then smaller increases, but still substantial, all the way up to people who have master's degrees. So completely wiping out everything the Biden administration has done for the last 3.5 years. But let me show you one impact of what the Biden administration has done. We all know that student loan debt has been a huge problem, and it's gone up and up and up. It's gone up and up per student, and this is even inflation adjusted, and it went up under Trump. But for the first time since at least 2007, student loan debt per borrower has actually gone down for three straight years. Still really high, but you can actually see tangible progress made under the Biden administration in reducing that student loan burden.
Yeah, and so we're talking about higher student loans. We're talking about higher taxes for working class Americans. And finally, let's talk about the impact that it's going to have to Medicaid. You know, there used to be this idea, oh, Medicaid, that just goes to poor people living in urban areas. And what a lot of Americans have figured out since Medicaid cuts have come, no, that's money that actually funds rural hospitals. That's money that funds nursing homes. That's money that funds a lot of medical care, a lot of medical treatment for Americans of all demographics in all parts of America. And Donald Trump if he really does embrace 2025, like he said in the past, he's going to support more massive cuts to Medicare.
Yeah, Joe, you're right.
And Medicaid.
You're right, Joe. Medicaid, I think there's something like 90 million people on Medicaid in America, 38 million children. So you're right. It is not just some urban program for a few poor people. And what Project 2025 wants to do is put limits on how long you can stay on Medicaid, effectively kick people off Medicaid, put in work requirements, put in a whole number of restrictions that would dramatically change the number of people who are on Medicaid. So this map shows you by color coding, the darker colors being the worst hit places, what share of enrollees could lose their Medicaid. So in Virginia, in Wisconsin, in Idaho, you could be talking about 40 to 50% of people being kicked off of Medicaid. In every state, pretty much, you can see that it's anywhere from 10% up to 40% all the way across the country. It would be a massive change in a program that, as you said, is absolutely central to our healthcare system and to the lives of so many people who can't afford their own healthcare. But it's also a question politically of whether this is really a great idea for the Republicans to embrace, because Medicaid is actually extraordinarily popular. Not surprisingly, it's supported by 90% of Democrats versus only 8% who have an unfavorable view of it. But even among Republicans, 65% of Republicans think favorably about Medicaid, and only 32% think unfavorably about Medicaid. So it's terrible policy. It also may be terrible politics for the Republicans to embrace proposals like this.
And it's particularly terrible if you look at the map in states like Virginia, Wisconsin, and obviously important states for this election. Thank you so much, Steve Ratner at the Southwest Wall. They tell us that it's the Southwest Wall. Greatly appreciate it.
So there you have it. Project 2025 affecting the young, the old, and in between, from taxes to student loans to Medicaid. MD, what did you think about that breakdown for the Project 2025's effect on some policies and programs that are currently going?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. You know, this is case in point why I say conservatism is dead. There was a time in the Republican Party where they were promoting what they called a flat tax. I remember Herman Cain during his run, the 999 plan, and you know, stuff like that. These are common conservative policies that they try to push. Now all of a sudden, and you know, there's a history there for tax breaks for the rich, but the focal point of conservatism from a fiscal standpoint was always the flat tax. That's thrown in the trash. It's funny talking about the Medicaid situation. You saw it on the map. Some of the darkest places where there would be a significant percentage of cuts weren't in urban states at all. Idaho is not an urban state. I don't know no Negroes live in Idaho. I ain't saying it ain't. I ain't saying it ain't, but you know, but I'm saying Idaho is what we would consider a rural state. I go through these places where I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I see plenty of white folks going into the store using EBT, things of this nature.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, we can't fall for the tropes, the misnomers of it being an urban situation. It's not. It's just as many people that's in the inner city and the surrounding areas that have Medicaid, just as many rural whites that ain't got nothing to do, no job, no nothing, is on Medicaid, probably more. So again,
Megamaniacs are voting against their own self-interest.
Their own self-interest, Van Cat. This is why when he said, as far as favorability, it was 60-some% Republican, because a lot of these constituents know that in a lot of these rural areas, they rely on programs like Medicaid.
Yes, they do.
That's just a fact. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing to argue about.
Nope.
You get now you can use that same argument for people in the inner city, but this is broadly an economic distinction that's comparable between the two demographics. That's just a fact. So, you know, the regular mainstream Republican know what time it is when it comes to the cutting of these programs. If you cut these programs, it's going to alienate a lot of their base. And that's just a fact.
And that's one of the reasons why I never understood the Marjorie Taylor Greene's fan clubs when she goes on and on about these nonsenses. Again, when you look at that map that the NBC contributor showcased, it was basically like the Carolinas going up the coastline. Like again, most of these places, if I'm not mistaken, aren't they red states? So other than with the exception of like the Midwest with like Idaho and the other state that they show, I can't remember on the map, but it goes to show again.
Virginia.
It was Virginia and so, there was another state on there, but they're
Wisconsin.
red states at that. again, he pointed out a very interesting point that I think most people is going to be lost, and some people. The Republican Party, most of the pundits know that getting rid of Medicaid or Medicare is very unpopular. It's one of those things that even when they try to, when they were trying to, I think it was, don't quote me, MD, was when they were trying to lower the overall bill, what do you call our bill that we have to pay off, like to China and the rest of them, like when we owe money.
Oh, the bonds.
No, the national debt limit, when they were like,
the deficit.
Yeah, like all of that, and they were like, oh, we're trying to cut, because this is the Republican mantra all the time. We're trying to cut this. We're trying to cut the national debt. When they went into this whole spiel of, oh, we're going to try to cut certain parts of Medicaid and Medicare, the first thing that their constituents and all of them stated was, oh, hell to the no, you will not. Because what? And then the Democrats got a hold of that and ran with it. What, you're trying to kill off grandma and grandpa? Like, that message will never work, and they know it won't work. So I don't understand why is it that we keep, again, with this Project 2025, when they put it in, there's certain things that just does not resonate with a crowd, and yet these people are going to still fall for it because it sounds plausible. Fox News runs with it, so we're going to be like, oh, the Democrats. No, sorry, Bob. If you look back on history, and this is not just me saying this because I know there's people out there going to go, oh, he's going to be like for the Democrats. It doesn't matter. As long as we're going to go with facts here. We're not going to go with alternative facts. If you look back on the history of the United States, and when it comes to either Democrats or Republicans, mostly, for the most part, it's always the Democrats coming in to save the day or fix whatever issues the Republicans left behind.
Every time.
And it's like, when are we gonna? It's like, I don't understand when people go, "Oh, it's a lie." The facts, the stats are all there. It clearly shows it that every single time the Republicans come in, they do something, and then the Democrats have to come in and clean it up and fix it way better. And then they come back in, destroy it, and then the Democrats come back in and fix. It's like it's a non, stoppable, recyclable. I guess it's a spiel or wheel that goes round and round. It's the same thing over and over again. So I find it fascinating. And again, I keep saying, I'm going to say it again. This will be Donald Trump Achilles' heel if he pushes the Project 2025 nonsense that these people are trying to back. It won't work. It's just as bad as when the Democrats did this whole defund the police. The message does not resonate, because once the Democrats realize how to use it to their advantage, which they're starting to do, which I figured they were going to do, it just, people are going to be like, wait, hold up, wait a minute now. It won't work. I'm still surprised that I haven't heard Marjorie Taylor Greene's mouth since all of this came out, which I find very fascinating, MD. Quote me if I'm wrong. Have you heard her speak about anything regarding Project 2025, the Matt Greens?
Not a peep.
None of them are saying anything. So maybe we're missing something, or something ain't right, or something ain't clicking here. But I think that's something that they should, pay attention to, because if those outlandish, babbable spiel people that usually are the mouthpiece for Donald Trump ain't saying diddly squat, and y'all are pushing this, it ain't working. And they know that if they push it too much, we're gonna get what we got, where they were like, oh, there's gonna be a red wave. It ain't gonna happen, people, because people gonna wisen up and be like, yeah, I'm just not gonna vote. Click. That's it. So it's fascinating to see all of this play out. But again, tell me the policies so I can know how to match and contrast between the Democrats and the Republican side, because all I'm hearing is babble, babble, babble. This is my agenda, and I'm not seeing results. This is not gonna work. I need concise, policy-driven aspects of, okay, when so-and-so attack. So, like, for instance, now we're here in Russia is very, very closely aligned with Cuba. There's a lot of warships coming in, which are the closest that they've ever been since the Cold War. What both sides, I need to hear from both sides here. What's going to be the message going forward? Are we going to say, all right, well, we're going to send a message to Russia, or are we going to send our own ships out? What is it? Like, I need to hear. That's the stuff that I want to hear as an independent voter. How are you going to?
Well, you're not going to hear that, because if Trump get in office, those warships that's on the shoreline of Cuba, they'll leave, because Trump going to let Russia do whatever the hell they want to do as far as Ukraine. They'll be happy.
Because I'm fascinated to hear, like, what is it? And then so there's a whole bunch of stuff going. I feel like, and I said I knew this was going to happen, because I said it when in the inception of when tape fist politics started, that there's going to be multiple fronts the U.S. is going to face. There's the Israeli Hamas war. There's Russia and their thing. There's Iran. Now we have Cuba jumping into the mix. Then there's so much distractions out there. From what I've even heard today.
And they seem to forgot about Haiti too. Haiti hasn't.
That, and then now there's Venezuela being pushed into the mix. There's a whole bunch of stuff left, right, and center. And to add that in, we are in an election year. There's so much things going on that I feel like we're so fickle-minded. We're forgetting things. And it doesn't help that these fake news that are being put on, which Russia really wants, the distortion of the news that's not accurate, and the bots pushing it out there. I feel like if we're not doing our due diligence of understanding what is happening here, people are going to fall for the same thing we fell for when Trump initially won. None of it, it's all about doing your homework. It's all about knowing. And I'm not saying both sides don't do the same thing. They're propaganda machines running about. It is what it is, politics. But at the end of the day, are you giving more towards child tax benefits that would benefit me and my kids? What are you going to be doing in terms of when gas prices start elevating itself, when OPEC decides they're going to raise or do all of that in coming winter time when winter affects gas prices? I need to know what's going to be happening with shrinkflation when products are being shrunken, and then you're pushing this agenda that you're still getting the same quantity. That's what I want to hear. Like, what are we doing here in terms of helping the regular Joe Schmoes that me and you out there that are working class people, which we don't see anymore because the rich is getting more and more rich and we're still struggling. How are you going to fix the mortgage rate? Like, these are things that I want people to be focusing on, not about, and not to say not for nothing that it's not pushed, but again, there's so much distractions. Either it's coming from Camp Trump MAGA or from the pundits out there that are saying, oh, it's DEI and, black people aren't smart, like what they said in that piece. Are you kidding me? Like, this is what we're doing now, that you don't think black people are that smart anymore? Keep thinking that. It's one of those things I want y'all to keep thinking, because I get that, again, on a daily basis when I work. Oh, he doesn't look smart enough. Oh, I don't. So I'll play up to it. I guess I ain't smart. I am a dumb Negro. I'll play up to that card and see what happens when you push me the wrong way. So again, that's the thing that I want people to focus on. And when it comes to November the 14th, please vote. If it means you vote locally, I don't give a damn. Vote for your national interest, for local interest. But if it doesn't appease you, you don't feel like voting for Kamala or Trump or the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party, that's fine. Vote for your local interest. That's all I care about. But please don't say you're not going to vote, because that just becomes a disinterest not only to you, but to me and for the rest of the people that know better when it comes to the rights of your civic duty of voting. Just vote. Plain and simple.
All right. Thanks, Ricardo. So obviously this story is going to continue on, probably even past the election, this Project 2025, because it'll turn into Project 2028 until they get it put in there. They're just that diligent in trying to get this agenda pushed forward. So we'll revisit more topics on Project 2025, on Donald Trump's authoritarian demeanor, because it's all linked together and it's all the same. So we want to go to the next story here, and this is the one with Mr. Christopher Dunn. Over, I believe, 34 years now, he's been in prison, and he did not commit the crime. And they know it, but he's still in jail. Let's take a look at his story, and then we'll come back to the panel.
A Missouri man remains behind bars for now, even though a judge overturned his conviction. On Monday, a St. Louis Circuit Court judge had vacated Christopher Dunn's murder conviction, citing evidence of actual innocence after he'd spent 33 years in prison. The warden was ordered to release him from prison last night, but the state attorney general, Andrew Bailey, who has been fighting Dunn's release, filed a last-minute appeal. Missouri's Supreme Court granted Bailey's request to keep Dunn in prison while the process plays out. Dunn getting the news as he was waiting to be picked up, his wife on the way. Dunn, now 52 years old, has always maintained his innocence in the 1990 murder of 15-year-old Rico Rogers.
I fear that the truth of what happened to me may never be known.
With no physical evidence linking Dunn to the crime, his conviction was largely based on the testimony of two boys, ages 12 and 14 at the time, who later recanted, claiming police coerced them.
It was real dark, and it was, at that time, it was dark, and the only thing I saw was the fire coming from the gun.
In 2020, Dunn's attorneys brought the new evidence to a judge who agreed that a jury would likely find Dunn not guilty based on the evidence. But Dunn was not exonerated then, citing a quirk in the Missouri law that allows only death row inmates to be released after proving their innocence, not prisoners serving life sentences. That quirk in the law has since been addressed.
Tonight, as we just told you moments ago, the Missouri Supreme Court has now blocked the release of Chris Dunn from prison after a successful appeal from Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. And this also comes after this afternoon, and a court of appeals said that Chris Dunn could be released.
Yeah, certainly a lot of developments really within the last half an hour or so. And our Dion Broxton has been following this case and is live in Licking, Missouri for us, where Dunn was being held in the state prison. There is still being held. Dion, what can you tell us about these developments?
I was on my way here because we got the word that the Eastern District Court of Appeals denied Bailey's motion to stay, but then, like you guys just said a few minutes later, the Missouri Supreme Court sided with the Attorney General's office. So it looks like Chris Dunn will be staying in prison. His wife, Kira Dunn, actually just showed up. There were some other reporters here. There were people with the Midwest Innocence Project who were just standing here. The news to Kira Dunn. She didn't know. I just called her on the phone and I explained to her what you guys told me just happened. The Innocence Project, some members with that group was here as well, and they didn't know. They were expecting Chris Dunn to get out as well, so they were frustrated. The people here who were waiting for him were frustrated right now. So right now we're just trying to get more information and figure out what's next. And
we understand that there may have been some request or order from the Attorney General's office requesting that he not be released.
Before even being set free after being behind bars for 34 years, Christopher Dunn faces another roadblock. Missouri's Attorney General is trying to stop his release by appealing a judge's decision. This week, a St. Louis judge granted a motion to vacate Dunn's murder conviction, saying the St. Louis Circuit Attorney made a clear and convincing show of actual innocence.
There was no physical evidence, no circumstance, nothing else to tie the defendant to the crime.
After 26 years as a judge, Booker Shaw has seen many cases before him in St. Louis City.
We're just very happy with how things turned out.
Now he's helping St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore with Christopher Dunn's case. In 1991, Dunn was convicted of first-degree murder after being charged with shooting and killing 15-year-old Rico Rogers in North St. Louis City. The Missouri Attorney General's office still believes Dunn is guilty. In May, during a court hearing, the Assistant Attorney General called Dunn the gunman and said he told lies. With this appeal process in place, Shaw and Gore are working to navigate next steps.
There's no provision for it under the law, and therefore we just don't know exactly what shape this is going to take.
Christopher Dunn was supposed to be set free yesterday, but his release was blocked for now by the Missouri Supreme Court after a request from the state's attorney general.
Eyewitness identifications is the most common cause of wrongful convictions in this country. It is the reason that this Missouri man, his name is Christopher Dunn, was convicted of a murder and sent to prison. Two men who claimed they saw Dunn shoot the victim 3 decades ago have admitted that they lied at trial. They were teenagers at the time. So here's the question. Why is Dunn still locked up?
If Dunn had been on death row, he'd be out by now. But he's serving life in prison without parole, which is kind of the same thing. But in Missouri, lifers aren't entitled to innocence claims, which leaves his fate in the hands of a prosecutor whose office put him behind bars in the first place.
I'm Christopher Dunn, an innocent man who's been in prison for a crime in which I did commit, who's afraid that I may die in prison.
51-year-old Christopher Dunn says he's running out of time. He's had 3 heart attacks since he was incarcerated more than 33 years ago.
I'm still trying to figure out what is justice in Missouri.
A shot in the dark just after midnight on May 19, 1990, killed 15-year-old Rico Rogers and put 18-year-old Christopher Dunn behind bars. Dunn says he was home with his mother and sister at the time.
I couldn't tell you who Rico Rogers was to save my life.
Had you ever met him? Did you
Never
know?
met him.
But two other teens with Rogers, Michael Davis, then 12 years old, and 14-year-old Demoris Stepp, told police the shooter was done. Did Rico tell people he had fought with you?
I heard the witness say this, but the thing is, I wasn't the person that he had to fight with.
While there was no evidence to support the teen's claim, Dunn's public defender urged him to take a deal.
She wanted me to plead guilty for 10 years.
Why didn't you take the deal?
I didn't do the crime. I didn't do it, so why am I gonna sit there and say that?
Dunn's trial in the summer of 1991 was over in a single afternoon. The prosecution presented no motive, no weapon, no physical evidence, just the two teenage witnesses.
They never had nothing. Only thing that linked me to this crime was the testimony of these two little guys.
And when it was the defense's turn,
my lawyer never called no witnesses, not even my family, to testify for me. I went to trial without a defense, without technically a lawyer.
The jury was back in less than 45 minutes. Guilty.
It was like my world just fell in front of me. I didn't see anything else but darkness.
8 years later, Kira Kaywood, a writer and editor for a magazine called Justice Denied, looked at Dunn's case and was troubled by the original witness statements.
Their testimonies didn't match, but by the time they got to court, everything matched. And so it was clear to me, reading it, that these young men seemed to have been coached.
Her article was published in 2000.
It felt like hope. It felt like hope for the first time.
And then in 2005, Dunn got a surprise in the mail, a signed and sworn affidavit from one of those teens, Demoris Stepp. Dunn was not the shooter, Stepp wrote. Stepp said that he had been facing serious charges of his own and got a deal in return for his testimony. I lied on Chris Dunn to save myself.
He admitted that he lied. And I felt like a kid in the candy store. I felt like it was Christmas all over again.
Kira Kaywood then hired an investigator to find the other witness, Michael Davis. And how difficult was it to find Michael Davis?
With that name, it's like John Smith, right?
You could have just walked away. Why didn't you?
Well, I was there because I believed in his innocence. And I couldn't, in good conscience, turn my back on someone in that situation.
And Kaywood's interest in the case by then, she says, had become very personal.
We got married right here in this visiting room. Held hands in the presence of my mother and my sister Dolores.
And this is a man who could spend the rest of his life in prison. And you choose to marry him. You may never get a chance to live with him.
That's true.
It took nearly a decade to find the other witness, Michael Davis.
I didn't see no shots.
Okay.
We ran.
Davis, then in jail in California, admitted to an investigator that he too lied at Dunn's trial.
Did we see Dunn do it? No.
Okay.
No, nobody seen Dunn do it.
You thought at that point, Chris is going to come out.
Oh yeah, we were ecstatic.
But it never happened. In September 2020, after a post-conviction hearing, a judge ruled this court does not believe that any jury would now convict Dunn under these facts. But the judge also said that under Missouri law, he couldn't free Dunn because he's not on death row.
He thought that no juror would convict Chris, which means that's synonymous with innocence, right? And he sits in prison. It's like a gaping hole in Missouri jurisprudence.
Justin Bonus, a New York attorney, is now working with the Midwest Innocence Project to get Dunn out.
He sits in there. He won and he lost at the same time.
Under Missouri law, this is the only person who can at this point ask a court to vacate Dunn's conviction. The St. Louis Circuit Attorney, Gabriel Gore. He has been reviewing this case. I'm not quite sure why it takes so long. And then what they'll do before the end of the year, according to the Circuit Attorney, is announce whether they're going to ask to have it overturned.
In the meantime, he sits there.
Yeah, right. It's a very casual attitude for when you're not the one in jail for all those years. I mean,
for so many reasons.
Okay, there he is, Mr. Christopher Dunn, innocent man in prison, and they are taking their time to give him his freedom. This story was a story that Mike suggested, so yeah, I've heard of the story before. I just didn't know the part about him actually being set free by a judge and then it was overturned. I didn't know that part. That happened recently. MD, what did you think of Mr. Christopher Dunn's story?
You're going to go to me first. You want me to be honest or you want me to lie?
Honest, always.
Okay, well, personally, I think he did it. That's personally.
Why?
Well, because I knew about this story, right? There was a documentary that was put out. The two people, and it's weird because one of them got my name, like it's one of the most common names in the damn world. But anyway, when they had the two teenagers and was questioning them, they didn't coincide in terms of coming up with a story about Christopher Dunn. They just organically identified him as the shooter. That's the first thing. That's what it's, at least according to the documentary, that's what it said. And then later on they recanted whatever. But the fact of the matter is they never colluded as far as identifying him as the shooter. That's number one. Number two is during the trial there were many inconsistencies of the testimony in regards to what he was saying during the investigation. Like I said, I'm the law guy. All I can do is go off law. Second of all, when it comes to, well, third of all, when it comes to what the law says in Missouri, whether it be draconian or whatever you may think of it, the fact of the matter is, when you are convicted and sentenced to life, those I guess you say the processes of overturning the decision is different versus death. They clearly said that. Now, this man has been in jail 34 years. Let's just say he do get out. What's another week or a couple of days? Because what I heard was the AG supposed to be going forth with it on Monday in regards to the Supreme Court decision and making a decision there.
But that's not what they're saying. That's not what they're saying. They're saying that they're going to ask for him to be released probably somewhere towards the end of this year.
So I read when I noticed that you was doing that, I read that they were saying something supposed to happen on Monday.
And, well, I mean, that would be great. That would be great.
Okay, yeah, and that was reported on today. So like I said, it's conflicting reports on what. I mean, again, like I said, me personally, I think he did it. Just based off how the trial went. You know, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? And here's, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, even though like there's nothing placing him there, he was at home with his parents and siblings. There's nothing except for two guys saying it was him.
Witness testimony that didn't have a chance to collude to
At
identify
night.
him. So how did they magically come up with the story to identify him? That's my part. That's all I'm saying. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Well, it seems like the police kind of like help put the training wheels to guide them. It feels like that's what's going on here.
Well,
the police like to say, you know, you done messed up, right? You know, you done messed up. That menace to society.
I get it, but again, that don't take away from the fact that two different people not having a chance to come up with a story of a person identified the person. I mean, that's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? I could be wrong, but you know, if it was me, I'd guilty. You know what I'm saying?
But what you're saying is coming from the police. I don't trust the police.
It's coming from the testimony of.
Yeah, that testimony was gathered by the police.
I can't do that at all. I think something happened to my mic. Hold on. Some jackass called me. Hold on.
All right, Ricardo. What do you think? Do you think he did it?
Okay.
I honestly don't. I don't even know how to gauge it. From my perspective of watching just the piece alone of what they described in terms of the case and all of that, it's easy to corroborate that the police would have done something in the sense of trying to get those. And again, we've seen it before with the Central Park 9, or is it 9 or 7? Can't remember. Boys that were coerced into confessing things that weren't true, and all of that stuff. So it doesn't surprise me. I do believe that he is innocent because, based on how we see everybody recanting their statement saying, I didn't see that night. I didn't see him physically shooting the person or being in where they stated that he was. It's not hard to see that law enforcement in this country throughout the years have been meticulous in doing things that are unfavorable. But when, like MD stated, if we're going to go by the law, you just got to go by what was presented in terms of the case and the facts, and that's all we can go by. But if the state is at fault and they know they are, they're not going to admit guilt. That's the one thing that we've seen time and time again when it comes to the Innocent Project. They don't like admitting guilt because, again, they will have to admit that they did something wrong and that they're responsible for putting an innocent person, incarcerated for 30 years. They said this guy was in there for. That's
34.
That's just beyond atrocious. And it's one of them things that this country has a great injustice. People that are innocent being in jails. Thank God for technology and science, and for those, for all those naysayers that don't believe in science and all of that, it can become handy. Now, it's DNA testing and having all these things that are presentable when it comes to the science again, proves points. Now, is it always 100% accurate? No, but it does become factual when it's like proven innocent against guilt. So if the man is innocent, by all means, let the damn man out and stop with this whole, going around, in circles nonsense of not wanting to admit guilt. And again, if they were smart enough to jump in front of the story before it became this bigger spectacle of what it is now, they would have been able to say, all right, we admit guilt, we did wrong here, we're going to give you at least something. Then you could at least say, all right, this is not good enough for me for being incarcerated.
That state doesn't pay anybody that isn't found innocent through DNA. So his innocence is not found through DNA. So they're not going to give him anything.
So does the what you call it? What's that guy's name? I'm drawing blank here. If they were to go to the Department of Justice, can't they interject themselves at this particular point and say, hey, we're going to reopen the case and look? And then if that happens, what happens?
You ain't talking about Ben Crump, is you?
No, I think you're talking about what's the name? The guy that was supposed to be the Supreme Court, but now he's the oh God, what is his name? Merrick Garland.
If he was if he was to interject and jump in and say, hey, listen now, Idaho, whatever state he's in, you're doing a grave injustice to the citizen here based on the Constitution.
They don't have the capacity. They don't have the capacity to do that. That's a federal entity.
That's a state
they ain't got
case.
to do a state case.
Right. That's what I was thinking too. Like, federal. But one of the things though that you gotta recognize is that he was told back then, hey, just take 10 years and be done with it. Wow. He's like, no, I'm innocent. I'm not gonna.
But why? But why
because
did they do
he's
that?
Legit. Because if you're innocent and you really feel and you know that you're innocent, why would you?
Right.
Like if somebody came up to me right now and said, you're going to go 3 years. And I ain't do nothing. I'm not going to be cool with that.
Well, no, I'm talking about from the perspective of the public defender. Why do you think the public defender did that?
Because I don't think they give a damn one, and I don't think that they really care. I really don't. You could tell, like he was just tossed aside, one of many this week that's going through something, and they're just like they just want to get it through because it's just going through the motions with black lives.
And not only
I agree with that point, but what I'm saying is, based on the evidence.
MD, what happened? What happened, MD?
He might be in an area that's cutting him off, I guess.
Yeah.
We can't. Huh?
There you are. Come back. Say what you got to say, MD. You dropped out.
Oh, my bad, my bad. I said, let's not forget that he was convicted by a jury in St. Louis, of all places.
Missouri.
Negro town.
But was it a fair jury though?
Exactly.
What would
Exactly.
not be fair about it? Again, look
I
at
don't trust them.
where it. So you don't trust people in your own community, is what you're saying?
Bingo.
Okay, well
Bingo.
that's fine. Again, the stuff that I've read, the stuff that I've seen, yeah, I agree. It was only those two guys that were witnesses, but in the hood we got a thing called word on the street, and based off the stuff,
Was there word on the street that was he a good character witness? Was he?
According to what the documentary that I saw, hell no, it wasn't no good character.
Was he a working?
And let's go to the elephant in the room. The white woman. These crazy ass these crazy ass white women that they obsess on certain particulars to the point where she married this man. Like that weirdo. I'm gonna just keep it weirdo. You know what I'm saying? Somehow they fell in love.
You don't think she saw his plight? You don't think she sympathized with the dilemma he found himself in?
If you fall in love with somebody based off of plight, that's an issue all on its own. Do we need to go back to slavery? That's an issue all on its own. She's a weirdo.
What are you trying to say, MD? That there's a false equivalency when it comes to the notion of them falling in love. For all we know, she met him and they've had conjugal visits, and she was like, "Okay, I found it."
They probably did, but I don't. But me personally, I think she see him as a pet. I'm just keeping it real. I don't know what else you want me to say about it.
I mean,
but again, I like the Innocent Project for what they do, but there's been a lot of mishaps with the Innocent Project as well. We got to take that in consideration. The Innocence Project, they ain't batting 1,000. Let's just keep it that way. You know what I'm saying?
But don't they usually use science to their advantage, though, MD? Like
when it's available, yes, of course.
Okay.
It wasn't available here, and it hasn't been available in other instances where the Innocence Project has messed up, blatantly messed up, and released somebody that was a murderer. Where later on it's been oh damn, it was almost a wreck, my bad. Where there's been instances where they screwed up. I'm just gonna keep it a buck. Me personally, I don't have any evidence to prove it, but based on the things that I've read, things that I've seen, I think the guy did it. That's just what it is.
All right. Well, like I said, if it turns out that he was innocent, because he's convicted on whatever it is that it is, because I'm sure, again, I'll have to look into the case, because I just recently saw it myself this week. I didn't know anything about it until it was brought to my attention. But if, again, it comes back to the night of question, like if it was in the night or in the evening, was he babysitting, was he working, was he there with his significant other, was he watching TV, was he doing something where it pertains to like watching over his mom? We need to know the basis of the case and how did these character people came into question here, where they were like, oh, he did it, knowing damn well they didn't see anything. It could have been pitch black. Like, what is their periphery in terms of seeing where and how the person that got killed was in visible range compared to where the shooter was, and if it was him, could it have been there's certain aspects of the case that I would need to hear to review it, and then jump into that conclusion of, yeah, like MD saying, I think he's guilty. But for me, from what I've heard in terms of the news clip and from what I've seen throughout the week, it comes across like, the state might have made an error of judgment somewhere and doesn't want to admit guilt, and therefore is going to go, oh, hell no. Like, we're not going to, they're going to throw everything at this case to make sure it doesn't go anywhere and that he's not released. But again, that's why I was saying, what if Garland jumps in, which you guys mentioned he can't do that because the state,
And think about it. What's the point of the AG going to that much length of doing what he's doing. You got to take all this stuff in consideration.
True.
Like I said, Missouri is a weird state, right? It's a Republican state, but where it matters, black folks run it. I'm being honest.
And yet they can't vote blue in that state.
It's kind of like Georgia. Georgia, one of them states, it's got a stereotype of being a red state, but everywhere you go where it matters, black folks run it. You know what I'm saying? So, Missouri is like, again, what's advantageous toward the state of Missouri to do this? It would be my other question that I would say. And again, you can't take away that it wasn't the state that did it. It was the jury that did it. The jury did it for a reason. Yeah, it's based off the evidence that the state presented, of course. But again, I mean, put two and two together in terms of what the facts were at that particular time.
All right. So we'll check out this story as there comes updates in the future. It'll be interesting to see. Hopefully before the end of the year, we can have something happen here. So Kamala Harris is looking to be the nominee and the front runner in the Democratic Party. And ever since then, MAGA and some of the Republicans have lost their minds. And now we're coming out with a total slander campaign. And they're just indiscriminately coming out and saying some of the most disrespectful, ratchet comments about the first black female that is possibly going to be president here. So let's take a look at something that happened on Fox News, and then we'll get the view of the panel.
And then there's the DEI press secretary telling you that the DEI vice president is the future of the party here. And so the future looks kind of dim for the Democrats here, but this is no shocker either. Kamala Harris, she's the original Haktua girl. That's the way she got where she is. And the party's going downhill if it's in her hands.
That was tough. That was harsh.
A regular on Fox Business, Alec Lace, made that lewd comment about presumptive Democratic nominee Kamala Harris, essentially referring to her as the original Haktua girl. Now, for those of you who haven't been following that meme and don't know what it's about, it kind of started after this interview went viral. Take a look.
What's one move in bed that makes a man go crazy every time?
Oh, you gotta give him that Haktua and spit on that thing. You get me?
Okay, so obviously he was making a reference to oral sex or Kamala Harris engaging in oral sex, even though he got some pushback from his co-host on the show, Dagan McDowell, for being too harsh. He decided, I'm gonna go ahead and double down on Twitter, writing, did I go too far on Fox News calling Kamala Harris the OG Haktua girl, or am I right over the targets? Now, similarly, by the way, last week, or this week, I should say, Alex Jones had his own commentary about Kamala Harris. I mean, it's interesting because I do think that if you look at her record, there are areas where they could target her on substance, but they seem to be unable to do that. And instead, they're leaning into this kind of garbage.
Oh, we'll just have some type of event in Chicago in a few weeks, and we'll just choose who it's going to be. Though they're saying it's Kamala, and the Clintons and others have saluted her, Obama hasn't. And so that tells you that the fighting's still going on. And Hillary wouldn't have all these hundreds, I couldn't even keep track of them, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, about she had the popular vote and she's the smartest and she deserves it. So don't think they won't try to push Kamala out and put her in, or have Kamala, who's dumber than a box of rocks. She's basically a fleshlight. Put Hillary on as her VP, and boy, if she does that, she's going to get JFK'd very, very fast.
All right, there we go. MAGA maniacs on the loose.
Hey, hold up, Venkat. Did Alex Jones call Kamala Harris a fleshlight? Is that what he just said?
Yes, he did.
Hey, he win on that one. I ain't got to.
Yes. I don't even know what the hell that is, but whatever.
I'll bring
You
it up.
don't know what a flashlight is?
I don't know
Nope.
what
Oh man, you got to go to Starship Enterprise. Do y'all got Starship Enterprise in Florida? Oh, never mind. Then maybe too much information. Too much information. Whatever. I just say this: whatever brand sex store y'all got down there, go to it
Don't worry,
and
I'll
find
bring
out what a flashlight is.
I'm gonna bring it to Vancat's attention later. But it's very you see, it's so easy, like she mentioned again, it's so easy to fall into that nonsense of that diatribe of the whole overtly sexism and misogynistic crap that they usually go for. It's not gonna work. You know why I'm gonna say this is not gonna work? I mean, you got to look and pinpoint what we've gone through when we went through Hillary. Hillary was one thing, but when you're gonna do this with Kamala, it's a whole other story. I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna give an example of when Obama was running in the year that he was running for. Initially, like I stated, I did not like President Obama. For whatever the reason, I couldn't resonate with him. He just came off forced. As per usual, the Democratic Party will always do something that was just like they push it way too far. And for me, it was just too contrived when it came to him and his campaign. Nevertheless, somebody brought up this point, and it was a great point at the time. They were like, when are you going to ever see a person of color run again and get to the point where you see Obama is at? Lo and behold, that was like the year before he started catching fire. Because remember, he was a part of Illinois, the whole Illinois Senate and whatnot. And he just literally, it just snowballed from there. He just kept doing his thing. He kept going. It's the same exact thing I'm noticing again with Kamala. For most of you who are out there and are not in the know, most Black people typically don't like Kamala, and there's a multitude of reasons why they don't like her. She's coming across very forced. She's with the husband that she's with. The circles that she has now is completely different from when she was coming up. There's a whole plethora of stuff that they don't like. With that being stated, though, can that change within the span of the next coming months? Absolutely. Because why? The nonsense that you hear on Fox News just now with the piece that you saw. When you guys continuously do stuff like that, you pivot and you push people towards the person that you do not want them to be going towards. That is it's common sense 101. Stop doing that. If you're going to push, there's multitudes of stuff that you could call her out from. MD will tell you the whole border situation where that was a major gaffe. Please don't come here, all that stuff. If you want to get her on stuff like that. Speak about the stuff that she didn't do when she was with Biden's administration. But when you get into the sexist, sexual, I don't give a damn who she was sleeping with. From following on, most of y'all were sleeping with hookers and all of that. So let's not go there. We could really go low blow, but we don't need to. Who one sleep with, who one's get there with, who we don't give a damn. Speak about the policies. Speak about what it is that you think she should be doing best or more on to elevate this country past whatever frame it's in right now. We're heading into 250 years of this country being a constitution, a beacon of hope for the rest of the world to look at. That's stuff that you need to be paying attention to or stating off. I don't want to hear who she's sleeping with, who act to her girl, and you're comparing her to a white woman at that. Well, she's not a woman; she's a girl, because this girl is 21 years old. So the October girl, if most of y'all don't know who it is, she was doing an interview with one of the regular viral sites. When it comes to like having discussion, it was mostly of an explicit sexual nature, and the guy was asking what you think women should be doing more in bed with their dude, and she said do an octua or something along the lines. If you want to go on YouTube, you'll see it on there. She instantly became viral because octua is like the catchphrase of this year. Everybody knows what octua is. If you don't know what it is, if you live it underneath a rock by now, but it's the catchphrase. For you to go to that length and then double down against her, it shows that you're not that smart. Come on. You could do better. Again, I'm going to implore the other side, please don't go there. It's not going to work for you. And what you're doing now, and I've been keeping track of from the assassination, so-called conveniently timed assassination attempt which led into the convention of the Republican Party. From that time until now, notice that they're in meltdown mode. They don't know what to do. They're all over the place. No one seems to be able to gauge. 1 minute we're hearing that Trump wants to do these what you call it, debates, and now he doesn't want to do them because on account of how sharp Kamala is. Yes, sir. Do the debates. If it means, having them and you tell your lies or how many lies you want to tell, by all means them. But you have to do your debates. You can't back out now on account of it's not Biden anymore. That's the things that people in the United States care about. We care about gas prices going up. We care about mortgage rates being astronomically high the way they are. Most people can't attain their American dream anymore. We're worried about, kids going hungry to school and all of that. That's things that are important. Medicaid, Medicare going out of the way, like they're going to get rid of that. Social Security. Those are things you need to be focusing on. I don't want to hear who once slept with from who, because most of us are heathens, and we will go on record and tell you there's multitudes of things that I can only speak for myself. I have, I could be the most horrible person in the world for all the things that I've done in my bedroom, but that's none of y'all business. At the end of the day, when it comes to doing my work and doing my job well, that's all that matters. I don't want to care for who is doing what. That's besides the point. So if we're going to go there, please, I implore the other side, do not go to that level, because it's not going to work. What you're going to do is force people to then end up voting for her, which is, I'm sure, is not what you want. But remember, you have independent voters that you need to be accountable for. And none of y'all are appealing to any one of the independent voters as we speak. But I digress. What do I know? Because I've voted, multiple times in the elections. And I've heard multiple people who are in the same category that I am in, which are independent voters, try to appeal to me. People, don't go for the nonsense, because that's not going to help y'all case when it comes to election day in November the 14th. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, MD. What do you think here about this?
Yeah, I concur with Ricardo, man. I mean, hey, it's fine. Was she tricking? Yeah, she was tricking to get ahead. Since the dawn of civilization, that's a thing. It's funny to me how we play this culture war stuff with Kamala and the thing that she's done in the past, and we look at what happened with Citizens United, and ever since then, politicians been tricking ever since. I mean, a politician that is a whore. That's literally what a politician is now. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, they're taking money left.
I'm trying to figure out what's the difference. You know what I'm saying? I mean, at least she was doing it to get ahead. I mean, now she's in a position where she ain't got a hold no more. What's wrong with that?
And let's not hide the fact that most of those men are whores themselves, because they've been doing a whole bunch of stuff that they don't want to talk about behind the scenes. But
that's the physical. But I'm saying I mean like figuratively. You know what I'm saying? Politicians do tricks for money. Go ahead.
You see the chat right there?
I'm driving. I can't. It's too small. What did it say?
So it says, go ahead, Ricardo.
No, Damien H just jumped in the chat and he was that Trump doesn't give a shit how he comes across. We love it. Media stop misconstruing his work. What words is our media misconstruing for Trump? Yes.
So why you can't have that same position with Kamala? Why does it need to be brought up that she was in these explicit relationships in the past? What does it matter?
I get my point.
I mean, logic, once again, it never fails. If Trump can say what's on his mind and he don't give a damn and all this, that, and third, why should Kamala?
Well, like the relationships that they're talking about, even that's a lie. The way they try to frame it, yes, relationships happen. Like there's one governor in California that she went out with
Willie. Yeah, she was with Willie.
Right, right. But
I think Willie hit. Like that's just me.
Right, but she was with him. She was with him before he became governor, and they made it look like he was a governor, and that's the reason why she was with him. The
But
relationship was over.
even if it was after, who cares?
Right. That's the
What the hell it got to do
Right.
with anybody?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
So then
saying? So again, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, go ahead.
Damien H continues saying, that Blue Party fellas, look at what they are representing: open borders, illegal taking mine and your jobs.
They take my job. I'm riding right now. I'm at my job.
Degeneracy.
I ain't seen illegal one time.
I haven't.
But I mean, just his typing sounds like the straight regurgitation of the Trump campaign, as far as like the set party line stuff you got to say. Well, not even party, MAGA line stuff you got to say.
So
I don't
Damien,
know how you correlate those things.
let me ask you a thing. When it comes to globalizing, which the United States is a part of, no one can. Do you think most of the stuff that is made for, like, in terms of your car, do you think it comes from the US strictly, or do you think it comes from out of the rest of the world? Because when it comes to the plane that you fly in, do you think it's actually made here, the parts that are made that you're flying on, in terms of the aircraft, from the rest of the world? They get parts from elsewhere. When you state that, the illegals are coming in and all that stuff, it's the same thing that what MD has been mentioning and what we've been stating all along, is that I get it. There is a false I just said the word and lost track of what I was saying for the word. False equivalency, is it, where it comes to this notion of, people come. Yes, there's multitudes of people that come across the border, but this country was made on what? The premise of what? Immigration, right? So when you don't bring in
that's false, Ricardo. It was made off the premise of capitalism, and the immigrants is taking advantage of that.
Good point. Yeah, so you're right. It is, because this country is based on capitalistic movements. But it's like, when are we gonna wait? So when you say, because I keep hearing this over and over again. So let's say, for instance, we stop illegal border thing and whatnot that MAGA keeps going for. Who is going to do the jobs of the people that you're getting rid of when you say the illegals leaves? Because we've learned from this example from Florida, when Ron DeSantis, our governor, said, "Oh, we're going to stop, we're going to deport most of these people and blah, blah, blah." When most of them were in the real estate or the construction market, guess what happened? They all decided to move on and go where? Georgia. They went elsewhere to where? Alabama. They left and went elsewhere. What that ended up causing the week after he said that was there was a void left in the market. No one was able to fill these spots that these people left. So how do you, what is your plan in terms of fixing that issue? If that's the case, where you guys are worried about all these things that he's talking about, nothing is wrong with what he's saying, but who's going to fill the voids? That's my question to the rest of y'all. Like, when you come up with all these things, who fills the voids? Because that's what we're getting at. You still need a flow of people coming in and out of a country to assist in terms of like birth rates. Like we take, for instance, you have places like Japan, where people are not having babies anymore. They don't have a multitude of people coming in and out of their borders. So age will become an issue for them later on. It's the same thing. This is why you have countries like Canada that, yes, we don't agree with everything that these countries do, but they have the smartness of knowing, if you don't have immigration and flow of people coming in, and I want to say this in such a way it doesn't come off wrong. When you have, I guess, not illegal immigration, but the correct immigration policies that are put in place to allow people to come in and out, then it still assists the country in terms of growth. That's what we're getting at. Like, these false equivalencies of what they're preaching to y'all doesn't really add up at the end of the day. It sounds good because it's like a mantra of, hey, we're going to stop this, and they're taking your jobs. Ain't nobody taking my job. I've yet to see an illegal person in my job. And there's a reason why they do these vettings where you have to do security checks. You have to either be a permanent resident or a citizen to work in this country. Am I wrong or am I incorrect on this, MD? Because I could have sworn every time.
Well, it depends on where you're at. I mean, hell, I know plenty of companies that do under the table spending. And hell, these are the same MAGA maniacs that go to the rallies every weekend. Here's the problem, right?
So true.
This is the issue when it comes to immigration. I know it's a sidebar, but it is what it is. Look at what's going on in Venezuela right now. I just found out they said during Maduro's reign, almost a third of the country left Venezuela. Why? Because their money is not worth a damn. The economy is completely collapsed. They nationalized the oil industry, basically giving oil away to places like China. No refinery industry in Venezuela. Maduro killed it. These are the same people that's coming to the United States. Then we turn around and say, oh, these people are taking our jobs. Well, what jobs are they taking? I need to know. Is it the black jobs?
Black jobs.
You know what I'm saying? So I can only equate the black jobs to very, very low income. Because in a lot of the places that I go to, those are where I see illegal immigrants making my 10-piece wing. Picking the strawberries, whatnot.
Trump took away a black job. He gave J.D. Vance. You had 3 black guys vying for that position, and they didn't get it. So Tim Scott, Donaldson,
to the
they didn't get
Republican
it.
Party, to the Republican Party, the vice presidency ain't no black job at all. To the Republican Party, a black job is Ben Carson, director of housing and urban development. When he don't know nothing about that. When he was a surgeon, why not make him Surgeon General? No, you can't have that job.
I would never.
Right.
We gonna put you in charge of the projects, basically.
Yeah.
What a waste.
Because you're a Negro and you should know about the project.
So one thing I will say here, because Damian H, he's talking about open borders and trying to use that. That went out the window a long time ago. When Donald Trump stopped that bill that Biden had, that bipartisan bill.
I know it.
Once that bill was stopped because of Donald Trump, you can't then turn around and be like, well, look at the border. Because you were part of the problem of that border. You're complaining about that problem. So that needs to go out the window right then and there. And that's the other thing, too. Like they're saying, well, you can go after Kamala about her border policies and immigration. No, you can't. Because, again, she was on that administration, Biden and Harris. And they had a very given Republican legislative bill, and they were willing to pass it. And it only fell apart because of the guy that is with the orange suit, the orange hair, and the orange everything. He stopped it. Once that happened, you cannot claim that. So I don't know what the hell we're talking about here. Like, you cannot go back to that.
Yeah, mind you, Republicans helped draft the bill in the first place. And then when Trump gave it the thumbs down, they threw it in the trash.
Yep.
It ain't like the Democrats made that up themselves. That was a bipartisan meal.
But here's the kicker to that, MD. Kamala she pushed an ad about that today. So we're gonna see that coming forward more so in the coming days, where exactly what you just stated is exactly what she put in the ad. And she laid out there all in the forefront for everybody to see. So it should be interesting to see how that's going to translate in the coming days. But the same thing you're talking about is going to be pushing an ad from Kamala. And I found that to be very strategically well done on her part. Good on you.
Yeah, and you can see why they constantly go into personal attacks and innuendos, because they don't have a way to attack her right now, which is ridiculous. You can't use your record of 4 years because you didn't do anything. And anything that was perceived to be done after 2020 COVID and the way you handle that, and then inflation is directly on your watch, Donald Trump. So you can't say Biden 1 year in. I was hearing it in 2021, 2022, that Biden, inflation is his fault. Wait a minute, this guy's in office a year and a half. That don't work. You can't give tax cuts to rich people they get all that money in their pocket, no inflation. And then you give people an extra $300 in unemployment, and for some reason that just blew up everything, and inflation is now running rapid because unemployed people in 2020 got an extra $300. What they freaking do?
Now, Van Cat, let's again give us free money in checks with his initials and
or the PPP,
whatever
the PPP.
He gave us checks twice. He said. So
Hell, I wish I would have got the PPP.
Which, by the way, a lot of big businesses that also benefited from the tax cuts and the PPP at the same time. Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like corporate is your issue. You want to blame inflation, you blame the actual inflation on corporate, and then you blame the additional inflation because it's not just one. They're adding on to it because they understand that. Loans. Exactly. People are so used to paying a higher price that you can nudge it up a little bit more and make record profits off the back of inflation, and they won't bat an eye because they just realize that right now everybody's talking about inflation and everything expensive, so they just pay it regardless. So it seems like corporate interests and billionaires and millionaires are the ones that are the ones driving this inflation. So Donald Trump didn't help that one tidbit. So yeah, all these issues point back to Donald Trump. So you got to come with a better plan of attack if you're gonna break through here, because I don't see it.
Yeah, but you know, that's not, it's just one of those things where they are right and we're wrong, and what do we know? Because we haven't learned a thing from the multitude of lies Donald Trump has been telling us this whole time. Vote him back in, and Russia will never go to war with us, he says, and all these things. Like, come on, sir. I mean, no, that's not how politics works. But I digress. What do I know? Because you told us, you said the same lies beforehand, and you didn't really do anything that would make me. I mean, except for that one time he did blow up somebody. I can't remember who it was. Who was it that he blew up on MD? Somebody significant from the ISIS people, something along that lines. Maybe that was what probably.
You're talking about al-Baghdadi.
Right, he did.
Yeah,
Baghdadi.
but at the same time, he killed Soleimani, that was fighting ISIS, and you can directly link the killing of Soleimani to what's going on right now in the Middle East. Direct link.
No new wars under this president.
And got cozier with Saudi Arabia, who yet still kill Ashagi, or what was his name? Is it Ashagi's name was? And you know, we still have yet to hear why they're so implicit in the case that nobody's able to tell us, was he a permanent resident or not? Because that was the other issue. But I digress. You've yet to help out the case because you're so cozy in bed with the Saudi prince, you and your so-called son-in-law, and you know, the peacemaker to this whole Israeli you know, whatever,
the Abraham Accords,
whatever it was. So you know, yeah. I mean, there's more stuff that he claims he has done, but I mean, really and truly, did you really do anything that really progressed anything? Because now we have the conflict that we have, and it's now progressing worse each day as we go along. But I digress. What do I know? Trump, you are always right because you are the smartest president we've ever had in history.
All right, so let's move on to some of the big news. The big news here for Biden. I wish he would have done this a lot earlier in his run, but Supreme Court limits. Joe Biden's is entertaining that that direction, and Fox News losing their goddamn mind.
Now to a Fox News alert. President Biden has just announced proposals to reform the Supreme Court. This happening literally a minute ago. These would include no immunity for crimes a former president committed in office, term limits for Supreme Court justices, and a binding code of conduct for the Supreme Court. Joe Biden also releasing a new op-ed this morning saying in part, quote, "This nation was founded on a simple yet profound principle. No one is above the law. Not the President of the United States, not a justice on the Supreme Court of the United States, no one. I have overseen more Supreme Court nominations as senator, vice president, and president than anyone living today. I have great respect for our institutions and separation of powers. What is happening now is not normal, and it undermines the public's confidence in the court's decisions, including those impacting personal freedoms. We now stand in a breach. Katie Cherkasky is a constitutional law attorney and former federal prosecutor. She's here now to react. Katie, that's a mouthful. What's your reaction to those plans?
Well, these are very pie-in-the-sky type of ideas. Nothing about the Supreme Court reforms could be immediately implemented, but it certainly shows the position of the Democrat Party. They don't like the outcome of the court's ruling, so they want to change the rules here. So many of these reforms would require, if not legislation, actual constitutional amendments. So again, not politically viable at the moment, but certainly a strong and radical position.
Yeah, such an important point that politically this can never happen because a constitutional amendment requires all three branches of government. I mean, not the three branches, but you need the House, the Senate, and the president. You also need 38 of the 50 states to sign on. There are too many Republicans for this to work. But on the immunity front, let's focus on that. Isn't this a bill of attainder, basically creating a law, in this case an amendment, that targets one person, Donald J. Trump?
Well, I think that would certainly be the argument. And not only that, I think it's a very myopic position. The reason that SCOTUS came down with that immunity decision is because they considered the impact of the presidential office and the idea of prosecuting a president. And so to take away that idea through legislation, which again is not very feasible, would impact so many other things that it would not be a viable office. And essentially, there's separation of power issues all over the place and constitutional issues all over the place. So this is, again, just a political talking point, but a very extreme one, in my opinion.
Joe Biden says this is all about restoring faith in the Supreme Court. But doesn't something like this, a statement like this, and a policy position like this, cloaked with the veneer of the White House, really end up undermining trust in the Supreme Court in the first place?
Well, that's exactly what's been going on here. They've been sowing distrust in the Supreme Court because they simply don't like some of the decisions that have come out. And that, again, is a very myopic position because many of the decisions from the court are unanimous or they don't fall along partisan lines. So certainly there are some very key issues that Democrats don't like, and that is what is motivating this. But certainly it is disrespectful to that co-equal branch of government from the executive branch.
Curious if you agree with my take. The Supreme Court is the one institution in our country that Democrats have not been able to undermine the way they want, to take control of the way they want, and it frustrates them to no end. Do you agree with that?
Well, absolutely. And when President Trump was able to appoint 3 justices, Biden only got to appoint 1. It's just the luck of the draw sometimes, too. And certainly there are politics involved with that. And it's very disappointing, I'm sure.
Before we let you go, how do Republicans spin this announcement that just came down literally 4 minutes ago on the campaign trail going forward, especially President Trump against Harris?
Well, this is clearly anti-constitutional. What you're proposing, what the Democrats are proposing, would require an amendment to the Constitution. So it's very ironic coming from a party talking about stealing democracy that they are going forward with such a radical talking point here.
Katie Cherkasky just gave the Republicans their talking point if they want it. Thank you so much.
Okay, so here we go. So Biden went ahead and put out 3 things that he wants. You know, no immunity for presidents. He wants the Supreme Court to have limits and so on. So these are reasonable things, you would think. And for the party that believes that government shouldn't be controlling your life and you know, we shouldn't have all these things imposed on us by government, it's just really jarring to see that same party then turn around and it's like, yeah, we're okay with a president having unlimited power, no way to be checked, and immunity from any kind of crime they could possibly get into. Those 2 things just don't seem to jive well with each other, and I don't understand it. Ricardo, what do you think about Joe Biden's proposal?
Yeah, this proposal from him has been a long time coming. I feel like he's just doing this now on account of, hey, you know, I'm leaving, so I might as well just burn everything down while I can and who cares what? Um, I, on one hand, I applaud him for taking a major stance and the dissonance that we've been seeing with the Supreme Court. We've been lost trust in the Supreme Court. I mean, it's not just now, but there's a number of cases that they presided over that they could have done a superb job on, but instead they've been all over the place. And the American people, I feel, no longer take or trust what the Supreme Court says. And SCOTUS has a lot of fixing to do. When it comes to them, a multitude of justices taking, money and doing unethical things, which you're supposed to be accountable for, and then turn around and say, oh, but, they come up with all these things. Oh, but, it wasn't me, it was my wife that, do this, or I was at the party, but, I was in a corner and I didn't have nothing to do with conversing with the people. Like, what are we doing? Like, your job, it's kind of like, and I say this all the time because I bring this up. It's like you being a pastor and then saying you're presiding over a church, but then I see you in a strip club having ass flowing in your face and doing, like, what are you doing? Like, you can't have your cake and want to eat it too. It doesn't work like that. You're presiding over the cases of this nation's most important pointed topics of discussions, and you can't be like flip-flopping. It doesn't work because then you confuse the masses, and then we're like, okay, but what are we, like, how do you then move forward from it? So it's very confusing, and the place that we're at now with the Supreme Court, especially with that immunity case about J6 and Trump, I'm still baffled as for what that was. That makes no sense to me. But years from now, it will be telling us for whether or not they made the right decision. And you can't say, oh, but it will never happen. You don't know. Lest we forget, there's multiple times that we've seen this, maybe not in this country, or it came close in this country, but we've seen in other countries that it are democratic. It happens. So SCOTUS has really lost its way. But for getting back to Biden here, sir, you, like they mentioned in the piece, it will take 3 levels of the branches to come together in this, and I don't think that's going to happen. Let's just be realistic. It just won't. There's just way too much Republicans and way too much, again, white nationalistic proceedings that go into this whole thing that entails them and the way they feel the country's moving in terms of progression-wise now. They're not liking what they're seeing. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So when it comes to like the Republican side, I don't see it happening. Now, if they were like the Liz Cheneys and all of them that were like probably would be more bipartisan, I could say probably yes. But we're going into an election year where everybody's trying to fight for the jobs that they want to keep or hold on to because they know what's coming next. No one knows what's going to happen. And it's like one of those things where it's like, I would rather say all this nonsense and false notions just to keep my job because it's more important. Money at the end of the day, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. So money at the end of the day is more important to me than the ethical values that I should be pushing. So I don't think.
But Ricardo, sorry to interrupt you, but what about, okay, so we got an election coming.
Right.
What if the Democrats take over the House, they maintain the Senate, and then they got the president as a Democratic president, not to mention, I don't know how many governor races there are over there, but what if a significant, we talked about a red wave, but what about a blue wave going across the country and certain governors can get in there, and now the whole map changes and there is a viable way to get to this place.
So,
it's not the governors that's going to ratify it, though. It's going to be the state houses.
There you go. So there's a lot into it.
And for instance, like let's give an example. A state like Michigan, for example.
Yep.
Michigan got a Democratic governor, but they state houses, state senates are Republican. They're not going to do it. Georgia. Even though we got I would say a moderate governor, and the state houses are deep red. You know what I'm saying? The state houses are the ones that got to do the 2/3. So essentially, if we're gonna go by what you're saying, Van Cat, if we can get control of the House, keep control of the Senate, we can pass it through. That won't be a problem. Getting it ratified is going to be the issue because you got to have 2/3 of the state. I don't think that's going to happen, like, at all. You know what I'm saying?
But just to bring up Maria G's point, because she's saying, Vancat, let's start with the term limits for Congress. I agree with you. There should be term limits for not only Congress, but for SCOTUS's too, for everybody. Because at this point, they're just taking advantage of the job. And it's like, oh, I'm going to sit in this position and die in it. No, that shouldn't be the case. If that's the case, you're going to, prevent younger people from being, progressing themselves into the roles that you have. Like, I don't want to see this idea or this notion that, hey, die here at age 99. No, that's not how it should be. There should be term limits as for how long you should be able to preside in a particular job, especially for a senator or a House of Representative, at that, even a Supreme Court justice. They shouldn't be on there until they're dead, like Ruth was. That defeats the purpose of why we have presiding cases, because they're just going to have an unbalanced side compared to the next. And it creates an issue when one dies, then we have to go out and then pick somebody else. And then it's not what we favor. And it's too much. Create a term set limit for everybody where we know at a particular time frame, you got to get out. There's no lobbying of money and contrive ideas of, I'm going to bribe you with that. None of that should be applicable. You have a set term limit, get out. As soon as you know it's time for you to go, we start the process. We do whatever hearings we need to do. If we find out you are unethical, we find out. But then again, they always lie, because remember, lest we forget, the 3 justices that Trump was able to appoint, they all said they weren't going to get rid of Roe versus Wade, but guess what? They did. So, and they went on record to say they weren't going to do it, right? And they said, oh, there's no way we could touch it and they can't change at this point. But lest we forget, they all did what? They voted it out. So color me blind to wonder why people would distrust the Supreme Court as the way it is, and I digress.
But how can Republicans have an issue with having term limits and with having a code of ethics for the Supreme Court? Isn't this the party of law and order? Isn't this the party of family values and all these things that are so, I mean, I don't understand. What is the opposition? This is, and they called it radical, and I believe they called it radical in the piece. Like, how's it radical to have a code of ethics for the highest court in the land, where you don't take stuff from people that you're gonna take a court case over? I mean, you shouldn't, even if you didn't have any affiliation, you shouldn't be taken from anybody. It's just not a good look. So I don't know. That's just weird to me.
Yeah, I've already told you what my position is when it comes. Do I believe there should be a code of ethics? Yeah. Do I believe that the Supreme Court should be these like monks in a monastery? No. But they should play their role as given. The judiciary is supposed to go off what the Constitution says. It's supposed to be nonpartisan. Now, I agree with the code of ethics. Do I agree with the term limits? No. And the reason I don't agree with the term limits is based on what the job role is, interpreting the Constitution as stated. Now, with the first thing, with the Constitutional Amendment, we've already said I don't think that's likely. Based off the fact, I don't think it can be ratified by 2/3 of the state. Term limits, I don't agree with that. Based off, I mean, look, you're going to essentially be playing judiciary like ping pong. If you go from what I read, he said, you would basically stagger the appointments, and every president would be able to appoint one Supreme Court justice.
Correct.
You'll be playing ping pong, because every time a new justice gets, I
don't know. I mean, that's not the way I would do it. The way I would do it would be very simple and straightforward. The way it's,
I'm going off what Biden said. But go ahead.
I get that. I mean, it's an easy way to deal with it. if you have 9 justices, then you should automatically always have 4 Republican, 4 Democratic. And the middle one should be the one that's the variable, and whoever is the active president should be able to put in that slot. So
Well, but that's the
whenever
thing, though, Van Cat. You don't supposed to know who's Republican and who's Democrat. Based
clearly,
on
yeah, that would be great in 1980, but we're in a different time, and we have to identify that is not the case. Donald Trump has completely politicized every branch of government.
Yeah.
So we are past that point. So we need to be proactive and just deal with it the way it should be dealt with. There's
So let me
no
ask you a
reason.
question, then, Van Cat. Let me ask you a question. So if it's let's just say hypothetically, it's 5 Republicans and 3 Democrats, and it's a Democratic president that's in the administration, he will be forced. Well, damn, I think I got my math wrong, but you know what I'm saying.
No, it would never get to that point. What I'm saying is, with the 4 and 4, every time one of those retire, the whoever that party is has to replace that party justice. The only one that's a variable that can be replaced by any side would be the middle one, the 9th justice, and whoever is the sitting president will do that. So it would always be 4-4, and it would only that one variable in the middle would always change. And that's all it needs to be, because a 6-3 Supreme Court is kind of ridiculous.
But
especially
here's the thing,
when it's an invalid court.
The thing is, though, Van Cat, I kind of like that plan, but the thing, you can't do that through legislation. You know what I'm saying? Not substantively bound. You see what I'm saying? You will still have to do it through a constitution. Yeah, you're gonna have to do it through a constitutional amendment, and it's still not gonna happen. My thing is the thing that, okay, you have to pass through the Congress, you got to ratify through the states. Why not just through executive order just expand the damn Supreme Court?
I don't like the idea of expanding it, because it's just going to be a one-up every president. I think we could just stay at 9 and just keep it straight down the middle, and then just have that one vote lead. And I think that would make the Supreme Court's decision will be more legitimate if it was that way. I think when anything passed right now with this 6-3 nonsense that we got going, every decision they make has people with a side eye. It's so illegitimate, especially the way at least 2 of them got in from Trump. It should never have been there. One of them is Obama's pick, for God's sakes. So, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Well, I mean, it looks like we just gonna have to hope that Kamala get in so she can get her too. That's what I'm gonna say to her. Because, like I said, any other type of rule change would have to go through amendment, and that's just not gonna happen. Hell, if you ask me personally, I don't think the Constitution need to be touched at all. Don't need to get. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, you wrote down something for generations and generations ago. I don't think it will be appropriate down the line. There are new things that they never saw coming that will happen. You always have to update.
I agree with that, but that's why the Constitution is a living document. All things that can happen or evolve in the future, you can interpret through what's already written in that Constitution. Now, of course, you had special considerations. I'm not disagreeing with that. I mean, we did have slavery and women's suffrage and hell, alcohol and all. So I'm not saying that there aren't that it wasn't instances where it needed to be new ratifications. But at the end of the day, as it stands now, I think it interprets everything that could happen in the future. That's just me.
Well, Maria G.
It's a living document.
I don't have that much faith in it.
Maria G.
Not to that extreme, I should say.
No, I was going to say Maria G. Wanted to ask you, MD, if you're familiar with the Judiciary Act signed in 1789. Who is familiar with the Judiciary Act of 1789? If you're familiar with
Well, yeah,
that.
yeah. I can't get it off the top of my dome. You know, I ain't. You know, I'm the political prophet. I ain't that deep. You could explain
it. Maria G. said one of the first acts of the new Congress was to establish a federal court system through the judiciary. Oh my God, I had a biting moment. Yes, thank you. Act signed by President Washington on September 24th, 1789.
So what's the content?
I don't know. I guess you just want to know if you know. I guess it has to. It's pertaining to what we're discussing in some way, shape, or form. But she just wanted to know if you knew about it.
Well. So okay. So that was during the founding, right? So again, any changes to any branch law. Well, let me not say law because that wouldn't be the right word. Any changes to any branch as it pertains to how it governs would have to go through constitutional amendment. It's no other way to do it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just a fact. Now each branch you can legislate that way. Like for instance, what Trump's doing with Schedule F. That's an executive branch mandate. So he has the right to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the executive branch codifying changes in the executive branch. You don't have to do that through constitutional amendment. But anything not pertaining to the branch itself, basically, if the branch is not self-mandating, you got to do it through constitutional amendment. In layman's terms. Like the executive branch can change the executive branch. The legislative branch can change the legislative branch. I mean, the judiciary ain't really got no power to change itself. But if one wants to change the other, it's got to be through constitutional amendment.
And that has to be a bipartisan way of going about it, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah, it's going to have to be bipartisan.
Right.
Because you got to get it passed through the Congress. The president got to sign it. Then the states got to ratify it. 2/3.
Marie G said, let's start with the Congress term limits, which I totally agree with. I mean, that definitely should be a thing. These old ass geezers just, you know, J.D. Vance is talking about people not having an interest in the future of America because they don't have kids. But you got old ass people, they don't have any interest in the future of America. They like right for now. And they're here in high ass positions laying down the law of the land. That's kind of crazy. Yeah, man, we should have term limits for real.
I agree with that.
I think everywhere should have term limits. I mean, the president didn't have term limits. I think it was like 3, and at one point it was more than that. There have been some presidents that had 4 terms. So obviously they had to see the error of that way, and they changed it. So I mean, the fact that in today's time we can't change stuff and make new precedent is kind of weird. These things happened before. It's not a new thing.
But again, even with that situation, that's a special situation because in Article 1 of the Constitution, it talks about term limit. It talks about everything that the government can do. When it talks about, you know, a senator can be in blah, 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 6 years, because that's a term limit for a senator, right? And then you got the congressman, blah, blah, blah. So in order to change that, you would have to do a literal change to the amendment. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it's already ratified within Article 1.
But we live in a cowardly times, cowardly society right now, and everybody's just in for what they got to do. There's really no bravery, and there's no brave moments in politics these days. So they're just playing the game, going through the motions. campaign funding. All right, so let's go on to our next segment here. So I think we should just go do the lame duck session at this point, since it's something we need to touch on. So let's go to lame duck, and we'll be back on the other end.
First things first, in this lame duck session.
For the United Nations General Assembly to share the extraordinary progress we've made. In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
You're trying your best, but it never feels like enough.
I started having second thoughts almost the moment I sat down on the plane.
Lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off. Turn them off. Let's go. Ready? Turn.
We go back a long way. She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
So I changed my return flight and flew back on the first available flight I could take.
I'm sick and tired of smart guys.
I'm sick and tired of ordinary people being fleeced.
I'm tired of being quiet.
I'm sick and tired. I'm just sick and tired. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. With great power comes great responsibility.
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones. You see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. That's a long way, isn't it? These eyes. You want to see a bird graveyard? You just go. Take a look. A bird graveyard? Go under a windmill someday. You'll see more birds than you've ever seen ever in your life.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made. Think about all those people. The names are obvious. They're well-known people. Kamala Harris, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who's now the Secretary of Transportation, Cory Booker, AOC. Think all these people. They're different. They come from different walks of life, different parts of the country. What is the one thing that unites every single one of them? Not a single one of them has any children. Why is this just a normal fact of American life? That the leaders of our country should be people who don't have a personal and direct stake in it via their own offspring, via their own children and grandchildren.
There's a new insult out this week that her and her husband have been using towards you, calling you weird. Does that hurt your feelings? How do you feel about that? Does that hurt your feelings? How do you feel about that? Does that hurt your feelings? How do you feel about that?
Do you think there is the moment now? I mean, the internet is so full of memes about him. Everybody is laughing at him. I actually wonder if he's now, if we can have the conversation, is he the Sarah Palin of this campaign?
The attacks on her personally, on whatever her past personally may have been, or calling her a childless lady, none of those are going to work, and they're going to make women second guess their support for what they may have felt for Donald Trump.
Some Republicans are expressing buyer's remorse over Trump's vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance. From his lack of charisma to awkward comments on the trail to his downright awful and misogynistic language, there's a lot not to like about J.D. Vance.
J.D. Vance making another unforced error tonight.
I've got nothing against cats. I've got nothing against dogs. I've got one dog. People are focusing so much on the sarcasm and not on the substance of what I actually said. And the substance of what I said, Megan, I'm sorry, it's true. It is true that we become anti-family. It is true that the left has become anti-child.
His response to the backlash amounts to an apology to cats and doubling down on attacking women.
His campaign claims that Vance is the most unpopular VP pick in decades, with the backlash still reverberating over his comment from years ago, labeling Harris and others, quote, childless cat ladies.
One House Republican said he was the worst choice of all the options. It was so bad, I didn't even think it was possible. Anti-Ukraine, more of a populist. He adds nothing to the Trump ticket. He energizes the same people that love Trump.
Donald Trump is breaking records for the worst possible VP rollout a candidate could have. Never mind uniting the country, J.D. Vance can't unite his own party. They're also dismissing Trump and Vance as weird.
These guys are just weird. That's who they are. So it isn't much else. Don't give them the power.
A second House Republican said, I think if you were to ask many people around this building, 9 out of 10 on our side would say he's the wrong pick. He's the only person who can do serious damage. And some even feel that Vance might cost Trump the race.
Then J.D. Vance again thought it would be a very good idea that he posts the following. This is actually a post by J.D. Vance. The post says, J.D. Vance is weird. J.D. Vance made a post that says, J.D. Vance is weird. It's real.
A third House Republican who said there is major dissension to Vance in the conference argued that if Trump falls short to Vice President Harris in November, Trump's vice presidential selection will be to blame. But these are just opinions. Let's take a look at the actual data and how he compares to bad vice presidents in the past. Take a look.
You know, you mentioned Sarah Palin. How about Dan Quayle as well? These are two folks who I think most people remember as not being particularly popular. The amazing thing was coming out of their conventions, they actually were pretty popular. Quayle with a plus 15-point net favorability rating. Sarah Palin with a plus 26-point net favorability rating. Again, Vance at minus 5 points is just off the charts and falling off the chart in the wrong direction. Not up above the chart, but down below the chart. The fact is, he is historically unpopular, even more so than VP nominees who, of course, went on to infamy.
So we are talking about a uniquely bad nominee for vice president. And his comments, of course, are offensive.
Is that we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
Vice President Kamala Harris as the nominee dramatically changes Donald Trump's odds of winning.
I'm worried about it. Everybody's excited about her, and that scares me.
Again, those are Trump voters.
Speaking of errors that Republicans are going to have to avoid. So, J.D. Vance is the vice presidential nominee for President Trump. Now, if you had a time machine, if you go back 2 weeks, would he have picked J.D. Vance again? I doubt it.
I think they're going to replay the clip, and they already have. I mean, they already have, about him calling, women and calling Kamala Harris and others childless cat ladies. This is something that he said a while back. But if you're trying to win suburban women and you call suburban women childless cat ladies, you're not going to convince them to come over to your side.
No question.
I think it's funny as a Republican, but I don't think a lot of suburban women that are on the fence are going to find it funny. I don't know how we address some of these things that are going to
No
put
question.
off people.
Here's my thoughts on me on that, because this is happening a lot now. I don't know how in politics we got to the point where people can't walk back things they said in the past and say, hey, I made a mistake. Right. At that time in my career, I felt a certain way and I said something that I believed at the time, but evidence has showed me that I believe otherwise at this time.
J.D. Vance ran worse in Ohio than any Republican by a lot. Yeah. If you think about it, he's been palling around with a kind of neo-reactionary Peter Thielite rights. The other person who did that and received a ton of money, like 8 figures, the other person who did that the last senatorial go-round was Blake Masters in Arizona.
Who,
Blake
by the
Masters,
way, defended the childless cat lady.
Of course he did, because Blake Masters is a weirdo.
There's a new insult out this week that her and her husband have been using towards you, calling you weird. Does that hurt your feelings? How do you feel about that?
No, not at all. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
You guys are just weird. That's who they are. So it isn't much else.
Something I said earlier about we need to reward the things that we think are good and punish the things that we think are bad. So you talk about tax policy. Let's tax the things that are bad and not tax the things that are good. If you're making $100,000, $400,000 a year, and you've got 3 kids, you should pay a different, lower tax rate than if you're making the same amount of money and you don't have any kids. It's that simple.
I totally agree. And I'll give you some fact checks. Americans with children, families within our tax code, do get a tax break. They already get it. It's called the child tax credit. Over 40 million people get it. And if you're really interested, a heck of a lot of Democrats and liberals supported it before J.D. Vance claimed it didn't exist, because it is also seen as an equalizer for middle and lower income families.
The fascists depend on us going back, but we're not afraid of weird people. We're a little bit creeped out, but we're not afraid.
Drama. JD goes from rising star to potential liability inside the powerful Peter Thiel network that anointed him. Replacement speculation of JD Vance swirls. Perfectly dreadful. Vance's trans classmates leak trove of private emails and texts where he goes, the cat ladies, man, they must be stopped. Again, really strange and bizarre behavior by JD Vance.
Hey, as you might have heard, Donald Trump's running mate and future star of his own Dateline episode, J.D. Vance, is ruffling quite a few feathers this week.
We're effectively run in this country by a bunch of childless cat ladies who look at Kamala Harris. The entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children.
Listen up, you wingnut elegy. This country is still controlled by men in systems that were set up by men that are carefully crafted to continue to benefit men. So to put it in women-hating terms, you'll understand you're being hysterical. But let's be clear, there's no correlation between childless people and the presidency. For example, our very first United States president, Mr. George Washington, didn't have children. In fact, he had 2 stepchildren. That's right, just like someone else I know. And to your point about Kamala not being fit because she's not a mother, I'd like to remind you that no president in the history of the United States has ever been a mother. But maybe if she had 5 kids with 3 different men and a scandalous affair with a porn star and was convicted felon, that would be more palatable to Republican men. I mean, my God, are we tired? You sad, diet, Mountain Dew, drinking, couch humping, dolphin porn aficionado, all of us childless cat and dog ladies are going to go from childless and crushing it to childless and crushing you in November. And before you tell me he didn't really fuck a couch, spare me. I grew up in New Jersey in the 80s where everyone had a couch in their basement, and I know a couch fucker when I see one.
Well, Kennedy, it seems like the Republicans are getting a big J.D. Vance, should I say couch-sized wake-up call.
You could, you pervert. You got smut on the brain.
Did he or didn't he?
JD Vance posted previously, woman gets violated by dolphin and enjoys it. And JD Vance says maybe the internet was a mistake, and you can see he was searching women and dolphin and getting violated. That's what JD Vance was spending his time doing.
All of that together, they say, makes him a, quote, creep.
It should be noted that JD Vance couch and JD Vance dolphin are among the most searched things on Google right now.
All right. There he is. Put the spotlight on the trash bag human of the week, number 49, Mr. J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, the trash bag human of this week. MD, what do you think of Mr. J.D. Vance?
I mean, yeah, man. Weird is the word of the day. You know what I'm saying? He does nothing for the Trump campaign whatsoever. There's no demographic of people that expands within the Trump campaign with dealing with JD Vance. It's just not. You know what I'm saying? Damn, dude, what you doing? In regards to a lot of the stuff that he said in the past, listen. When it comes, if we talk about Project 2025, right? This is the Project 2025 pick. Trump did not pick this person to be his VP candidate. He just did. Don Jr., Eric, and Peter Thiel whispered in Trump's ear to pick J.D. Vance. I don't think he had no intention of even looking his way. J.D. Mandel is what he called him one time. He didn't even know the man's name when he was running in 2022. Like, that's just a fact. Because he's running those same circles of those tech bros like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk. And, you know, that goes back to what this is really about. They call them the tech bros is what they call them. A lot of these technocratic people, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Leonard Leo, all these people, they weirdos. So it's right to use that word, weird. I mean, look at some of the stuff these people done saying, especially a guy like Elon Musk. That's the epitome of weird. You know what I'm saying? They got in Trump's ear. Come on, guy, what are you doing? They got in Trump's ear, said that, you know, this was the perfect guy. Trump, of course, he didn't know what was going on and went with it, and now he's stuck. It's going to be interesting to see if he backs away. If Trump backs away from the J.D. Vance decision and go with something else, it's going to be devastating for the Republican Party. Devastating, because then it's going to solidify
the opposite effect of with Biden backing away.
Right.
Yeah.
The reason being is because it's going to show that the Republican Party is all over the place, which I've been saying. They have no backbone in terms of the stuff that they stand for. Like I said, conservatism is dead. Now with J.D. Vance, he has a what the hell is this dude doing? He has I don't want to say alt-right, that'll be the wrong word. He has like an extreme right-wing socialist ideal that he stand on. You know what I'm saying? And I think Trump believes that that's picking part of the demographic to follow him. But it's really not. Because it shows a lack of depth when it comes to who identifies or who Trump thinks should be identified as a MAGA Republican. It's all over the place. Especially with a guy like JD who done shifted more times than not in the previous 8 years. You know what I'm saying? Multiple ways of thought. So I mean, it's bad, man. It's bad. If Kamala, especially with the momentum that Kamala got right now, really this should be a landslide. It should be a landslide victory for the Kamala campaign.
I've been called that.
Yeah, I mean, but do I think it's going to be that? No, because I think a lot of people that may not identify as MAGA maniacs, they go along with the get along, so to speak, in terms of the Republican Party. But I think this is the last year of that. This is the last cycle of that. You know what I'm saying? And I think the Democratic ideology is going to take hold to a point where it's just going to drown out mainstream Republicanism. That's the way I look at it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, JD Vance, man, listen. If you ever wanted to see someone that was socially awkward have that much power, look no further than a person like JD Vance from the political spectrum. You know what I'm saying? Of course, we got other spectrums like I said, the tech. Right. You know, well, yeah, DeSantis. But I look at DeSantis as being in obscurity right now. You know, I don't look at him as having no clout. You know what I'm saying? I just don't. Even if he's the governor of Florida, I mean, in the eyes of the MAGA maniacs, he's a nobody. I'll put it that way. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, JD Vance the one with the juice right now. That's just a fact. It may be the wrong juice, but it's the juice. But I don't see it going nowhere in terms of the campaign.
Okay, thanks for that, MD. Ricardo, what do you think of Mr. JD Vance?
Yeah, he's deserving of the lame duck session indeed. What can I say about him? I mean, I'm gonna try and see if I could give him the benefit of the doubt. Sir, and it's not even like he can walk back. It's the same thing I was saying about Kamala. If she's really smart, she would jump ahead of the things that she said in the past before they start running these campaigns to try to get her. You know what I mean? With the gotcha moments, like please don't come and all this stuff, and this country is not racist and all these gaffes are gonna come back to bite her. But it's just an idea of her being like an Olivia Pope and jumping in front of the mess before it start raining down on her. Then it might kind of lessen the blow for her. But JD, you come across like a nerd that doesn't really say the right things in the past, and now you're trying to walk back, and it just sounds even more socially awkward. This whole idea about you humping the couch and these catless ladies, and all these things just don't sound right. Now, in your defense, many of us have fornicated on couches. So unless we, go there, I mean, the couch is very comfortable. So I give you that.
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
You mentioned dolphins, and for most of you who are out there thinking, "Oh, dolphins are so cute and they're so intelligent," which they are. But did you know dolphins are is nature's most perverse mammals? They are so disgusting in the wild that it's not even funny. They do things,
Yeah,
and if you want,
dolphins are very horny.
they're
They're very
very
horny.
horny. They're very SA-ish when it comes to like the female dolphins. So if you want to do your research, don't believe me, go out and do your research. It's out there. They're very creepy mammals, and I'll leave it at that. But they're very, very I would say very sexually fluid, if that's a
No consent with the dolphin.
right. They are just very disgusting.
That's in line with Trump.
So if you want to, if I'll throw him that one, and what else did he say? He said something even more weird. Um, Listen, just I don't know. All around, JD is just the worst choice. I can't say it enough.
Well, I had to leave out a lot of weird stuff. Like there's pictures of him passed out drunk on the floor. There's a picture of him wearing a USSR Russian the flag on his t-shirt. Like it's crazy stuff, man. This guy's
The
a nut
picture of
job.
him at the White Power gun show
Oh Lord.
with the swastikas and everything. You seen?
Oh
Hey man,
man.
hey, like it's a public, bro. I don't understand what Trump. It's a PR nightmare, bro.
Yeah, it's beyond a PR nightmare. And then he said something this week about his wife being Indian and some stupidness. And I was like, what does that have to do with, I'm not even gonna even go into, but it was just
this is not fear. I should not be put to them indignancies.
Hey, real quick, he met his wife at Yale, right? At Harvard or Yale, whichever one it was. He met her. He met her at a Democratic outreach event.
Why are we not surprised? Right. Why are we not surprised by that one? And he thought it was smart to say that out loud. Like, sir, what are you doing? Just stop talking. Like somebody should be, someone should be an advisor and say, listen, JD, you were selected and we're very happy to have you a part of the camp. But sir, please don't talk unless it's a debate or something of that nature. Just stop talking, sir, because he really says these weird things that don't even make sense. Like Elon Musk is weird. Don't get me wrong. He's hella weird. Like if you ever heard him in conversations, he creeps you out like big time. But with that being stated, Elon will go in circles to then get back to the point of what he's saying. With JD Vance, it's like I have to say something outlandish to then prove a point, to then come back to like try to make the point but double down, and then it still don't make sense. That's what it's like. He makes people gasp in the wrong way, and I feel again. And MD brought up a good point. It'll be too late at this point to try to switch him on Trump's side. I think if they do switch, it would be devastating for real, because then they will know, okay, then we've done something wrong, and they're not going to admit that they did something wrong. So if I were them, just write it out. If he can debate whoever the presumptive VP nominee would be, which we're going to find out in a couple of days, because I think they said it's by August the 3rd, she's going to make a choice. So we should find out who the VP selection is. But without
You see what Mr. Straight Talk put up there? We've all said the cat comment behind the scenes.
Yeah,
there he goes.
I mean,
that man talk.
We've said it, yeah, because I mean, come on, like which female you know of is if you're a singer for that long and you're not, involved with someone, at some point in time it's going to be questionable. Like, okay, is it that you have an issue? Or so yes, he is right. It's kitchen table talk. But do we want JD Vance to say it out loud? No, sirree, Bob. You keep that to the barbershop, to the kitchen table talk, to the men factions of speaking. We don't say certain weird things out loud because this doesn't sound good. You know what I mean? To the masses. So I feel like an advisor should step in on JD's in JD's regards and say to him, sir, what else have you said out loud in in a setting where we need to like get a hold of this and make sure we step way ahead of it before it becomes another snowball? Because sir, you're not helping our case. And I'm sure it's really, if I'm not mistaken, I could have been sworn that I heard some news station stated that behind the scenes, like, Trump is really fuming because they're talking more about JD than they're talking about him. So really and truly, I don't know if it's helping his case, because again, he's narcissistic and very full, self-centered. It's all about me. And if you're not talking about Trump, we all know what happens next. He goes berserk. So JD, you are deserving of the lame duck session. I'm mad you're not number 50, but somebody well deserving will get the 50th spot next week. But sir, no, you're not the right VP choice. You bore me to death. You are saying weird things about like cat ladies and humping dolphins and humping the couch, and I mean, and in all honesty, and I'm gonna give you, throw you a bone, and I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. I've humped in my couch. I know dolphins are horny, and I know many cat ladies that are horny freaks. But I digress. You are not allowed to say those things out loud, especially when you're running for VP, sir. It just doesn't look and sound good from you, because you come off like a creep weirdo, and that weirdo moniker is going to stick on you until the end of the election, like how that fly pitched on Pence's forehead and we never forgot about it. But, you know, people have said he's full of but I digress. Let me just keep moving. But that's it.
To be fair, Ricardo, they're not saying that he was humping somebody on the couch. They were saying he was humping the couch itself. Just want to put that out there.
Couch.
So he's one of those. Oh yeah, he's definitely
in between the cushions.
So sir, that's where he could have bought a fleshlight, damn it. Like, MD, what do we need to send him the memo? You could have bought a fleshlight, sir. You could have gone pay for lady of the night.
No, he made his own. He put the KY inside the glove, and then, you know, stuck it in between the cushion for added tightness.
He made a is it Fifi they call it? What do you call it?
A Fifi, yeah, a Fifi.
He made a Fifi, really. For those of you who don't know what Fifi is, ask those prison dudes. They will tell you what it is. But
he was in jail. A Fifi.
No, JD, no. You could have done multiple things. You could have bought a fleshlight, for crying out loud.
Yeah, a fleshlight. He could have he had the money for it. He could have went and got a fleshlight.
You Republicans disgust me sometimes. Y'all the most horniest set of people. Y'all do the most vile, disgusting things. You used to be the party of family values and stickler things, but y'all are sticking them for y'all definitely sticking things, but in the wrong places. And I'll leave it at that. Damn freaks.
Yep. You can't argue that, man. There is one more video I want to show here. It's a real quick one, but hear this opinion about Trump picking JD Vance and him being a liability to the Trump ticket and possibly causing the downfall of Donald Trump's presidency run here. Let's hear this point of view, and then I want to hear what you guys think here.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made. And so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too.
I just feel like, I think anything from the Republican Party worried about what JD Vance says about women doesn't sound true. I mean, Donald Trump's your nominee. Let's be serious. What can be more harmful than having Donald Trump, the president who actually is responsible for ending Roe v. Wade, at the top of your ticket? And do I think he would get rid of Vance? Absolutely. Donald Trump actually is, it seems like he's setting up the vice president version of The Apprentice right now. He absolutely would love the idea that he could fire somebody and create noise and tell people that JD Vance was never his pick. It was somebody else, like his son or whoever he could throw under the bus, and how he never liked the guy, etc. I don't think Trump is looking for someone that can bring out the middle of America or any demographic for that matter. Trump is looking for someone that he could see that is weak enough to follow everything he tells him to do. And JD Vance checks those boxes the way he roll over on issues. You see, he has no spine. So he's perfect for the Trump camp, the cult. Here's what's amazing to me though. The idea that a party that has no platform is worried about what JD Vance is going to do as it pertains to causing Trump the election. Trump's going to cause Trump the election. Trump is extremely, when it comes to elections, the worst person to pick. He won one election. And every election after that, they lost. If Trump endorses you as a Republican, it's damn sure almost nearly a fact that you're going to lose your election. It's the worst thing to do to be associated with Trump in this political climate. And people don't want to acknowledge that. And then you have to measure on top of that, all of the new people that have been introduced to our electorate and those that have been removed. So many baby boomers since Trump first came on the political scene are no longer voting because they are unalive. And then there are so many new Zers that are eligible to vote since Trump came on the scene, and I think people aren't counting it into the math. Trump is going to be the reason he loses, not JD Vance.
All right, so there it is. Ricardo, what do you think about the comment here about Trump? The reason Trump will lose this election, not because of JD Vance, but because of Trump himself.
I can agree to a point with that because Trump always gets in his own way. I think if and not for nothing, Trump has a tendency to put his foot in his mouth a lot. And so what we're beginning to see, and this is why I kept saying, he kept saying something about Joe being sleepy, and he kept saying Joe's in the basement. He kept coming up with all these things. When Joe decided to hit them with the whammy of, okay, well, if that's the case, I'm going to step down because, and not only am I going to step down, I'm going to endorse Kamala. It threw everybody off because now you can't really say you're bringing anything new and fresh because Kamala is new and fresh. She's a little bit younger, if not a lot younger than you are, Trump. And not only that, she is a woman, which if you were smart, you would have picked a woman to run, which we all thought he was going to do, but he didn't do that. So now what do? You put yourself in a box where you can't escape out of, and boxing yourself in never works well for anyone. So who are you going to go? I guess the Christian and the evangelicals, who are the more holier than thou set of people, but yet they have the most perverse set of people that we know to mankind. And I say this with vigor because I know plenty of evangelicals, and I can't stand them for my life, but I digress because it's not about me talking about them tonight. But Trump, you will definitely lose this election on account of the fact that you always put yourself in a predicament where you say outlandish things and then you walk back, like the Proud Boys moment in the debate, or when you say stand by and stand back and you say things like you don't know if it's like, when it comes to black issues, whether or not it's for black jobs. And it's just these gaffes and nonsenses, which makes you come across very elderly and old and senile, is where it's going to be a problematic. And I think your campaign knows this because they're fearful of you debating Kamala. Kamala, on the other hand, you could call her the filthmonger of them all, who slept with many men to get to where she's at. You can say whatever you want to say. She's very sharp, and she's very, very eloquent, and she's very very stern when it comes to like bringing about certain points, because again, she used to be a prosecutor. So it really will be fun just watching the debates when you have a prosecutor and a twice convicted, impeached, well, not twice convicted, twice impeached, 32 count convicted president grumbling and coming up with all sort of lies, which she's gonna combat you back with here's the truth compared to what you're saying. This is not Hillary Clinton, people. And I'm gonna bring this up again because I keep hearing people doing this contrasting of, oh, she's like another Hillary. Oh no, she is not. What she has on her side is that she is what? And you can say it with me, a half black, half Asian woman. So in this world of the immigrants and the immigration and the all this nonsense that y'all spew on that side, it doesn't bode well when it comes to votes, because they are the ones that are going to be voting. And in this changing climate of the United States of America that we're in, you need those people to vote for you when you're not bringing them in by any contrast. So what are we going to pivot on? I guess MAGA always is right. So what do I know?
Okay. Thank you for that, Ricardo, MD. What are your thoughts there on the comments about Trump being the reason Trump's going to lose, not JD Vance?
I mean, it's a half true, but I disagree with it on the terms that we just saw on like 2 videos already. The reason why Trump, no, I'm not Trump, but why JD Vance is basically a detriment to the campaign. So uh, the women issue, the abortion issue, the IVF issue. These are all things that Trump is trying to basically toe the line with in terms of saying, "Oh, it's for the states," and blah blah blah, this and that. Meanwhile, JD Vance is a staunch anti-abortionist, staunch. So I think that's reason enough to say that he's a detriment to the Trump campaign, and ultimately it will be for that. I think first of all, let me make it clear: women will decide how this election will go. That's just a point blank. That's just a fact. It is what it is. The abortion issue, in and of itself, is the number one factor of this election. With that being said, when you have one trying to stave off past statements that he's made based off Roe v. Wade, whatever the situation may be, versus a person like JD Vance who has not seconded Trump's ideals of Roe v. Wade at all since he's been the VP pick. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. Trump always go out his way to say that he gave it back to the states and that was always what he wanted to do. JD Vance has not said that not one time. JD Vance has an ideology of his own, different from Trump. That alone will be, to me, the reason why the Trump campaign will lose. And the fact that saying that what can he do about it? Last I checked, a couple of weeks ago, the Republican delegates already solidified JD Vance's nomination. So what can he do? Unless now you don't care about democracy, like you claim in the Kamala campaign and Joe Biden don't. So, there's that, man. I mean, hey, it is what it is. The women will be the deciding factor. That's just what it is.
MD, do you think
go ahead.
Trump is gonna replace JD Vance?
Well, how? I just said.
I know what you're saying.
The Republican delegates nominated him already and solidified his nomination.
Now remember, this is a guy that's dealt with fake electors, tried to overthrow the government.
You put it that way. I get.
So the rules don't really matter. He seems like he will go around those rules quickly if it's what serves his best interests.
Well, again, you put it that way. I can see it. The dominoes may already be falling. Again, they just got rid of the person that lead Project 2025. I don't put nothing past. You know what I'm saying? What's going on in the Republican Party? So you may be right. Would I consider it legal? No, because technically it wouldn't be legal because it's already been. It would have been different if it was pre-RNC, but now we post-RNC. Everything already set in stone. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, but hey, like you said, we dealing with Trump.
So Mr. Straight Talk said, when is the next debate? The next debate is supposed to be in September, but
we didn't even talk about that. He backed out.
He says until she becomes the official de facto nominee, that he's not going to want to debate her. But Harris said that she would debate on the September with an empty podium.
Make it into a town hall.
Yeah, which is a great tactic, by the way, because then you still get that free press on that TV. That you get that TV time, and you're making your opponent look like a coward in the process. That's one of the best things you could do.
Right. Yep. And remember, Biden, he set the rules for the CNN debate. Trump was the one that set the parameters for the ABC debate. So he backing out of his own get up.
Right, which makes him look even weaker.
And all these things does not help or bode well for him coming November the 14th. Now the megamaniacs might tell you otherwise. Oh yes, and do like in that piece when she was like, oh, everybody's beginning to is beginning to like her a lot, and that scares me. What do you talk about, lady? Like what? That scares you more than the people on your side of? But I digress. She said that Kamala getting popular scares her, so I guess they're really going to meltdown mode here for whatever the
Yeah,
reason.
the wheels are falling off this Cadillac. I love it. All right, so let's get our final sign off because it's time for that time. So we'll start with Ricardo. Ricardo, final sign off, sir.
So yes, sir, we're gonna keep you up to date on what a fleshlight is because I'm not gonna let you get with that. MD and I know what it is, but Venkat doesn't know what it is, so we're gonna have to educate you, Venkat. World of commerce, free speech, and free will. You got to know what it's the equivalent of a fifi, and I don't think Venkat knows what a fifi is either. So we gotta enlighten you. But all jokes aside, it's been a very interesting 4 weeks. Aren't we in the 4 weeks by now? Since the attempted assassination, well-timed spectacle that we saw, which now people are coming out in the hearing saying that they don't even believe that the shot that was fired was even bullets. It was actually something else. So there's a whole bunch of stuff we're hearing now that, is going to get drowned out by the fact that it's election. So none of that matters because no one's talking about who? Who, Trump. And he's reeling and squealing and turning red behind the scenes because it's all about him, no longer about him anymore. So it's all about Kamala. He is the one to blame. And he has no one to blame but himself for this. So good luck with you, Mr. Trump. Again, talk about policies. You might get my attention, but if you're bringing up the same nonsense and same foolishness from the last time around and building the wall in Mexico and fracking and all this nonsense, it ain't gonna work. So best of luck to you and your boring, weirdo, sexually perverse VP pick. That just seems like he's like out there, and if he said something to the effect of, "I've always found Indian women sexy." I don't know. Good, best of luck to you MAGA people who are out there. Please just don't unalive yourselves when he doesn't win, because there's so much hope and love and happiness and unicorns and sunshine when it comes to I don't even know what the hell I'm saying anymore. All in all, just go out and vote, people, and vote for your best interests. If you don't want to vote for the national one, your local interests are important, and we'll see what goes forward from here on out. Looking forward to the next Tape Fits Politics. Hoping to see y'all back next week, and signing out.
All right, thank you, Ricardo. MD, final sign off, sir.
Yes, sir. Great show as always, man. Pertinent topic tonight. A lot of stuff going on in the news cycle, man. Like it, man. Hey, I'm with you on that, Venkat, man. It's like every time you turn around, it's something. Everybody,
Yeah, can't keep up with it.
yeah, you can't do it, man. You can't do it. Right now, we got the stuff going on in Venezuela. I think the stuff in Venezuela is very important, especially for the people that tout this anti-immigration ideology.
Because
all you got to do is look to see what's going on. Go ahead, Ricardo.
No, I was gonna say that's an important point, because those people are gonna be coming here on account of they're gonna do the what's the word that we're looking for here? When you call those people refugee status, they're gonna use that as a tactic to come in. So what are we gonna say? We're not gonna.
According to the MAGA maniac, they ain't no refugees. They're not refugees. Look what's going on in Venezuela right now. That's all you got to do. The people up there in Chicago that Negroes bitch complain about, those are Venezuelan people. Look and see what's going. All you got to do is that's your point of reference. We literally got an authoritarian in power, still in an election. You think those people don't want to be in their country thriving? You don't think they don't want that? Like what are we talking about? Also, turn your head toward what's going on in the Middle East right now. We just had an attack in Beirut today.
Yes, we did.
It looks like it's further escalation going on with Israel. It's a lot of stuff going on, man. It's a lot of stuff going on. You know, I would suggest that you become astute with the sign of the times. You know what I'm saying? So you can be prepared on how to deal with a lot of stuff that's going on. You know? See, let me go to the lefty loonies before I close out. Do you know I've seen lefty loonies actually going back to Venezuela? Lefty loonies actually applauding the election, saying Maduro won, just based on the fact that he's against what Israel is doing. The hell with if he authoritarian, ain't nobody got nothing to eat or no money or not. Don't worry about that. He against Israel, so he all right with me. You know what I'm saying?
There's no nuance.
This is the tipping point in which I speak on when I try to preach individualism. Because if you don't, this is the result. You got crazy ass people that bank on one issue, and that's the end all be all. And like Venkat said, no nuance whatsoever. It's tunnel vision for the MAGA maniac and the lefty loony. And that's not the way society should be. So with that, I say peace. I may be. Oh, go ahead, Ricardo.
No, I was just gonna say I totally agree with what you're saying there. I can't disagree with anything.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I just wanted to. I hope that was a wake up call for you, Venkat. Cause I know you a lefty loony.
No, because again, we got nuance.
Okay,
we got nuance. I can agree with that point.
As long as you can identify with that, I can sleep at night.
Oh, of course.
You know what I'm saying? I can sleep at night. So again, shout out to everybody that was in the chat. I may be back on Thursday. I think finally I'm gonna do the show that you wanted me to do, Venkat. I'm gonna do the truth about black conservatives.
That's this Thursday?
This Thursday.
All right.
Okay. And with that, I say peace.
All right. Thank you, MD. I'd like to say peace to Ricardo, peace to MD, peace to Mike, the technician, Jeremy. Of course, Patrick T. Man, Patrick T said some stuff on here that is kind of reigning true. So he brought up some great points in the last couple episodes. Give a shout out to Patrick
real
T.
quick, Venkat. We also didn't talk about Christopher Wray, the FBI director, basically saying we don't know if Trump got hit with a bullet or not.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that'll be next week.
Okay.
I already got it slated.
I got
it slated. Yeah, that's huge there too. I mean, that's
you
crazy.
said Patrick T, and it made me think of that.
Yep. And I'd like to say thanks to Tequila. Awesome support as usual. Shout out to Marie G in the chat, bringing up some great points. We got Mr. Straight Talk in the chat. And here he is right here. I'll be interviewing Jeremy this Thursday. Oh, wow. So this Thursday we got Jeremy being interviewed by Mr. Straight Talk. And then we also, afterwards, we'll have MD. So we got a double feature.
Yes, we do.
So by the time Mr. Straight Talk's done, we'll probably have MD around that time starting up. So that'll be awesome. So this Thursday will be a slobber knocker. I'd like to say shout out to Bones. Bones always passing through. We appreciate Bones. Check out Bones and the MMA Brothers. Bones Zay breaking down the UFC and all the MMA action of the day, before and after all the big fights. We also have Pour Your Heart Out. Pour Your Heart Out will be one of the many returning shows for the Straight Talk Society, starting in August. Man Talk Monday, this coming Monday. Pour Your Heart Out. All the favorites of the Straight Talk Society will be back in full effect this coming August, which is literally just days away. And next week, we'll be back with another episode of TFP. And next week we'll have Lame Duck number 50. So tune in next week for that and more. For everyone else here at the Straight Talk Society, have a great evening. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Check out MD Thursday night. Check out Trevor, Mr. Straight Talk, Thursday night as well. Peace and good evening.
Peace, peace.
Peace.
She just said a terrible thing. You know what she said? Shout it out, because I don't want to. Okay, you're not allowed to say, and I never expect to hear that from you again. She said, I never expect to hear that from you again. She said he's. That's terrible. Terrible.